Gonna call to order the regular school board meeting of USD 345. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Wilson, will you lead us?
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Never called on me.
Do we have any signups for public comment? Okay. We need to adopt the agenda.
Madam President, I make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the agenda as presented. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, same signs. Motion carried. Ms. Boggs, we are ready for you to present on the Seaman High School video board. Oh, okay. Okay. You. Oh, there we go.
That's the way
You
to make
wanna
it.
come up to the mic? That would be great. Perfect timing.
Was closed tonight.
Oh, yes, it's
That's
okay.
all good.
Sure, blame it on construction.
Welcome.
Okay, so we're just gonna talk real quick about kind of the video board that we have in the gym and what that's kind of looked like for us this last year and what it's looking like in the classroom, kind of the stuff that we're doing with it. To begin with, I will say in the beginning, this entire kind of season has definitely been like a learning curve for all of us. So we went into this basically on ground zero. None of us knew any of the software. We didn't know any of the equipment. Basically, we had our Daktronics guy come in and he sat down with me for like 30 minutes and was like, okay, here's the basic rundown. I was like, okay, that's great. And then after that, it was just a lot of trial and error. And it was first just me messing a lot with it and trying to find that comfortability with it enough to be able to show these guys and all the other students in my sports broadcasting class how to get comfortable with it and how to start running it. So in the beginning, I had an initial group. Brecken here was part of that group, and they kind of helped us from the very beginning of sitting down with the Daktronics guy and being like, this is what the backside looks like. This is how, everything runs from the back end. This is what we're doing with it. And Brecken and a couple other guys who couldn't be with us tonight, they had sporting stuff going on. They took time outside of their school day and they came in to meet with the Daktronics guy. So they went above and beyond on that part for us. But they kind of learned with me in the beginning. We kind of got a game plan of, okay, we know how to do this, we know how to do that. And then we kind of switched to basketball. We were like, okay, the game's coming up. What do we need to get done? We knew one of the big things that they wanted was like a hype video. And so that was the first thing that we kind of switched our focus to was, okay, how do we do that? So we did a lot of kind of looking around. We looked at professional hype videos. We looked at other high schools hype videos, and we kind of got an idea of, okay, this is the list of things that we're going to get. Let's get some equipment. Let's, communicate with the teams. Let's figure out how we can make this happen. So they had to do a lot of kind of communication with basketball coaches to figure out when we could get the kids in. They had to do a lot of problem solving. There was a lot of times, even in the beginning, that we were like, well, shoot, how do we want this to look? What do we want to do with it? So there was a lot of, let's just try this. We'd rather have more footage than not enough. So we did a lot of kind of back end stuff ahead of time. And I'm going to let Brecken talk a little bit just about what it looked like on the back end side, because he was a big part of that.
Okay, so basically, it started off very, I wouldn't say terrible, but little rough at the beginning because we had no clue, to be honest, what to do as a high school first year, first everything. So we just kind of hopped into it, started looking at like K-State and KU, their hype videos. We did volleyball, and look great, in my opinion, but we just need to take another step next year, and we learned so much this year, and also got a ton of new equipment that's gonna help us out, and it was really easy to run the board once we learned from the Daktronic guys or whatever that showed us how to do that, and it's just a couple clicks on a button and it's all up on the big screen, so better click the right one. It's all been a great learning experience, so that's all I really want to say, so.
How did you guys do the actual video? Did you
Like,
do
how we
like,
recorded it?
Yeah.
Or- Okay, so.
did you do clips and
Yeah,
then
it was
put
a
it
ton of
all?
clips. So like, we just had on, I don't really remember the volleyball, we just did like a green screen and then them right beside it, they got to choose a special, like, what they wanted to do, and then it'd have their name, and we tried to pop some stats up there too with them. And then basketball, we actually brought them into the gym. It was 2 days after school. We did boys one day, girls the other, and we just, I mean, ran through for like an hour straight, just people dunking, people shooting threes. I mean, just kept going, ton of clips so we could go through the next day and really find the ones that look important and like show what the Seaman Vikings are, you know, like right at the end, the boys one, there's one where someone shoots a three and everyone's like yelling, and like that's just the,
Mm-hmm,
you really want to make it personal, you know, so
cool.
yeah. Yep, that's it for my part.
Thank you, Morgan. No, and I'll let Connor here. He was really a big part when we actually got into basketball season and it came time to actually having the students work a lot of the games. So in the beginning, we did a lot of the back stuff. We had a lot of that going on, but then when the season actually started, I was not able to, be there for every single game, and I wanted to get these guys involved. So when we came back in January, part of the requirement in my broadcasting class was that every student had to work at least one game. They didn't have to work the whole night, but if they could at least even set it like a first half of one of the girls or boys game just to get some comfortability with the equipment. That was what was asked for them in the beginning, and they were all like, yeah, we're down. So we took the schedule and I basically was like, okay, look at the schedule, tell me what's going to work with your schedule. And so they went through, we were able to find for like almost every single game, I had 2 students that were able to come and work either the boys, the girls, or like Connor, he did a lot of where he just set up there for boys and girls. So he had a lot of time with the equipment. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit, just more of like the game day experience, what it looked like from a student's perspective, actually there on the court doing the game with the crowd sort of thing.
Yeah, so I kind of had the easy part compared to these two. I didn't have to like make anything. I just had to sit up there and click the right button.
You're the
when a play
DJ.
was made. So basically, I watched the game, and then like if a foul was called, then I would click the foul graphic, or if like a 3-point was made, then I would do the 3-point graphic. So it wasn't, it was pretty easy, and it was fun too, because, well, I could get into the game for free. I could watch the game and I could like kind of interact with the crowd. Like it was a good way to be a part of the school community. Like I could do something that made the players feel good and made the spectators feel good too.
Yeah,
Cool.
they're gonna feed off that, so that's really cool.
I was at a lot of the games this year. You guys did a really great job. It was fun to watch the graphics come across.
Now, are you both juniors?
Well,
No, we're
softball.
Oh, okay.
Excellent. Continuity, we love it.
I know who he is. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you guys, you got them for 2 more years. You're gonna have like
know.
pros.
Can't get out after this.
So you've done volleyball and basketball. Will you do like wrestling?
Yeah.
Or?
We wanna spread to more sports.
So I know like at this point, volleyball was not ever anything that actually made it like onto the big screen
Mhm.
because we got the board a little bit too late in the
Right.
season. volleyball, we kind of just wanted to get an idea on things that we could do. So in the broadcasting room right now, we have a green screen. And so one day, just for the heck of it, and we got some of the varsity volleyball players to come in and they were like full uniforms and we put them in front of the green screen and we just threw up some like fun graphics on the back and then we put like their name and stuff up and we had them do poses and like yell and just kind of see what we could do with it, just for kind of the fun of it. And then when we actually got the board in, that was when we could be like, okay, I really liked what we did with volleyball girls. Now, how can we tweak that for basketball? And then going forward this year, it was a little difficult just in the scheduling portion of it. It was from when we got the board in to when the games actually started, it was a really fast
It's like
turnaround
2
time.
weeks or something like
Yes,
that.
and it was,
Yeah.
it was really hard to find a time that would work with coaches, work with all the players, and work with all of us, because myself and all the students have different schedules and they're all involved in different things. So once we were able to find a couple hours here or there that we could get in with the players, we were like, okay, let's go for it. So yeah, we had to spend a couple of evenings doing it. But I know going forward into like next year, Mr. Brown is putting a media day in. And so that will help us out immensely. So we're gonna take like a full day during the day that we can actually get the kids in their uniforms. We're gonna have several backdrops. We're even gonna get like yearbook brought in so that they can get some shots too. And we're gonna have like multiple backdrops, multiple areas where we can get different shots of them, different footage, different things like poses, stuff like that, that we can use, and hopefully it won't require as much extra and off time as we had to put in this year. And I think like right now, like I said, it was a learning experience, and we definitely know like going into next year, these are things that we love and these are things that we're like, we could probably leave it for next year. We could do better here. But we've already talked about like the media day next year that we're gonna do. We have so many ideas already. So we're super excited to actually go like full on with volleyball, obviously. And then now we have that 1 year of basketball underneath us. So yeah, we're just really excited for next year.
Great.
We'll be
So did
excited
you
to-
guys both get A's in her class?
So far.
Semester's not over yet.
What do you, either, both of you, what are you planning to do after high school? Do you have ideas yet?
We play tennis in college, that's all I know, to be honest.
I just want to get to the business school.
It's great
Cool.
experience.
Great. Thank you very much, guys and ladies. I love that. You're free to go if you want to go and you don't want to hang out for our business meeting.
You can hang with us if you want.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to superintendent remarks.
Thank you. Well, you guys know, students, those guys are our why. And obviously, student learning is our mission, and making sure our students are successful. But if you really think about it, our clients are our parents. So just like when you take your kid to the doctor, you hope that that doctor is successful in maybe curing what ails them or giving them the best service possible. But our parents are our clients as well. So every year we do a parent-client survey. This last survey we've done had 620 responses. That allowed us to have a 3% margin of error with a 90% confidence interval. I told the group that I hope that all of our kids also know how to look at survey results and figure out what the margin of error and confidence interval is. But I wanted to share some of that with you because you hear a lot of things nationally going on with schools, and I want you to know that we're not perfect and we've got a lot of room that we can improve, but in general, we're doing really good by the people that we serve. 92.3% of our parents agree that their child reads either at or above the level they need to be academically successful. I mean, 7.7 don't think that, which is a huge concern for me, and we have to improve that. But when you consider that 19% of our kids have an IEP, that's really not horrible. What we don't see is Seaman grads, at least I don't. You guys have been here, a lot of them longer than I have, and so you don't see graduates from Seaman High School who are out on the street, unemployed, unhoused, resorting to crime in our streets, not being able to support themselves. There's always going to be some, I'm sure, but boy, when you walk around the area of Seaman, you don't see people who just couldn't make it and went through our schools and weren't successful. Sometimes the assessments that we get, there are people that like to highlight them, but I want to highlight one. And we talk about 3s and 4s, and our state has said that 3s and 4s are academically prepared for post-secondary success. And we have 35.5% of our kids scoring in that area. We got to do better than that, right? Have to. But if you think about it, we also have a measure where they track every single one of our kids after they graduate to actually look at, did they get a credential that actually measures academic post-secondary, success. Now, those don't include our military kids. Those don't include kids that just have a good working job. It doesn't include if they are working at their family business. It only includes kids that have a specific credential and will to be tracked. We're over 55% with that. So I'm not sure how we could have only 35.5% that are academically prepared for post-secondary success. And we can measure more than that have academic or post-secondary success. So I asked our teachers, do we feel like we have 64% of our students that are behind? We don't. It just isn't the case. It's a good measure of reading and math and social studies and science, and we need our kids to be more proficient in those areas. But 3s and 4s are not the right measure. They're the measure that somebody had to pick in order to meet a federal law, and it doesn't perfectly measure whether our kids are or are not going to be successful. If you ask our parents if our schoolwork is appropriately challenging, 92.3% say it is appropriately challenging. I don't know how many of those others say it needs to be more challenging or less challenging. Maybe, I don't know. Schoolwork is interesting. We're at 86%. Certainly like to see that quite a bit higher. Child excels in at least one academic area. 90.6% will tell you that their kids have found a little niche that they can be successful in. We need that to be 100. That's our aspirational goal that the board set forth, and we need to get closer to that. We asked our parents if they think their kids are college and career ready. 90.1% said they were. And then this is the one that blows me away, but I'm not surprised, is we asked them if they value school staff. 98.6% said they value student staff or school staff. Our community and our parents love our staff. Now, in case you think that our parents are just spouting out rainbows and unicorns, I'll get one more rainbow unicorn out there, and that is, Lance will like this one. Facilities are clean and well maintained. 94.6% of our parents say they are. If you ask them how many of our if our facilities and classrooms need upgrades, 56.1% say they do need upgrades, which means that only 43.9% are satisfied with our facilities, even though they say they're very clean and well maintained. At high school, only 22% are satisfied. 78% say we need updates. So we can get better at that as too. Probably the one that though strikes me the most, and it's not those numbers, but we asked our parents if we're doing a great job retaining our staff. And that's another board goal. And only 75.6% said we're doing a great job of retaining our employees. We got to improve that. Nothing else we do will get better if we don't get the employee thing figured out. So we're working hard on that. You guys have seen some of the stuff we're doing around employee retention and those types of things, and we have a whole committee. But again, part of that, it's not all. People don't do their jobs just for money, but obviously it takes money to make sure we're doing that. Our staff is serving our clients very well. But you guys know me well enough, it's never going to be good enough. There's always room to improve. And again, parents are our clients, it's very important, but we do have other data that we look at as well that we can improve. Last thing I want to say, and it's maybe more of a personal feeling, is if you look at data, 88 nations take the PISA exam. It's a worldwide assessment of math and reading. I think there may even be science. Oh, there's science on it as well. 88 countries take it. If you look at those 88 countries after 2012, it drops like a cliff. What do you think 2012? Because other than that, it was plateaued, and then 2012 hits and it just starts to drop in 88 countries combined. Social media came out about that time. I think social media is doing more harm to our kids. We always talk about the mental health effects of social media, and I'm not telling you it's not there, but I think there's some negative learning effects of social media as well. So we've got to do some of that. Positive news on PISA is that in reading and science, the US has actually increased over that same time span. We are now 6th of those 88 countries in reading. Our math has declined, not as much as the total, but our math is declining. And as a nation, we got to figure that out. But my solution is that schools and families must work together to ensure that we have the most success we can get for our kids. Because any one kid who walks across our stage or doesn't walk across our stage that's not successful is going to be too many. So we've got work to do, but it's not failure. Thank you.
Thank you. You're up again. Promotion and graduation attendance.
Those are really just reminders. The dates and times are on there. I know that you guys have signed up for some dates and times already, but just wanted to remind you of those times. So nothing fancy.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, president remarks. First, we're going to start with Diana.
Oh, yes. So a week and a half ago, we celebrated prom at the high school. And more importantly, in my view, we celebrated Afterglow after prom. That kicked off at 11 o'clock after the dance, and we were at the high school with the kids until about 2. And I bowed out around 3. I think it took them till about 3:45 to finally finish everything and get out of there. But the reason I wanted to bring it up is we had 240 kids, I think, at that high school making good, safe decisions. We had a ton of community support from groups like the Optimists, local businesses here in North Topeka, families, parents, even parents of graduated kids who volunteered their time for that event. Our administrators at the high school were amazing. We had teachers volunteering to take a shift. It is truly one of my favorite things about our North Topeka community because it's so much fun to watch the kids, and it makes me feel good to know that we've given everybody a safe place to celebrate after the dance. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who donated, spent that time at the event. It was a great night.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, next, 3 of us, Braden, Christy, and I, and Brad, went to the National School Board Association Conference in Atlanta. And we got back a week ago. Brad took a detour and got back Thursday, but working detour, I should say. But I want to give us a chance to talk about the national conference. And I want to say I've never been to Atlanta and I saw like a 3-block radius.
Yeah. That's all we could,
That's it.
that's all we could do.
So I really don't count that I've been to Atlanta. So, the sessions
Thank
that I
you.
went to were very informative. My favorite session I went to, I can't remember the exact name, but it had to do with, DJ, like music and kids and how we motivate kids to learn. And the main point of the session was going to the kids' level and finding out what interest our kids so that they are interested in what they're learning.
It's
And
called Groovy leadership.
groovy leadership.
Lessons
Thank
learned
you.
from the DJ table.
And this specific guy had been a teacher, a principal, and he's now a superintendent. And he really, really, really puts music into learning because kids all not adapt, but all identify with some type of music. And so that was the main thing, was how he uses the music. He wrote a book, but he said not to waste your money on it because he was young when he wrote it, so it wasn't that great. But just if it's not music, it's gotta be something that gets our kids interested. And then my all-time favorite part of the whole conference,
Fangirl.
the Bacon brothers, Kevin Bacon and his older brother. And I was very excited. He didn't dance. They did sing. They have
Bam.
a band. And then their mom was an elementary educator and she started her own preschool. And then it grew and they talked about the effects that had on the community and their family, and it was really good. But
She also volunteered at a local correctional facility, helping inmates learn how to read and everything. And I think that local correctional facility actually named a room, like a
oh,
library.
yeah.
In her honor, and
I
they
forgot
did a
that.
ribbon cutting and stuff, so that was really cool.
So it was a great conference.
I'll let Braden.
Braden?
Yeah.
Sure. I sat in Atlanta airport long enough to count that I've been to Atlanta. Kind of to echo what Michelle was saying, the conference is informative. You get to hear a lot of unique perspectives from the entire country, from people all over the place. And I felt this last year, my first time going to it, and I heard it again this year. No matter the session we're in, the ones I went to this year were a little bit more, not as much. I did not have as much fun as Michelle did in hers.
You didn't pick the groovy one.
We're a little bit more stark in their assessments on some of the funding changes and things that could be impacting, like future outputs and things that could be impacted. But even though it was not as positive as Michelle's, talking with people around the country, talking with people at my table from other states, neighboring states, as well as states far away. Kansas and the people we have fighting for us, both in the legislature, both at KSB, locally, we have a lot of really good people on our side. And Kansas is a place that, while we are somewhat contentious when it comes to kind of local politics and how things are handled in the legislature, we do have good people fighting for us, and we have the best in mind for our kiddos. And I cannot say that about other states. And our problems look like small potatoes sometimes too. We need to do a little bit of comparison between our district and other places. So overall.
There was a big storm, and
On
so
Sunday.
Braden got delayed hours.
It rained more there that day, in like 8 hours, and it's right here in like a year.
Mhm. It was, yeah, we were expecting like tornadoes and everything, so.
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of stuff got delayed. So, like Michelle and Braden, I was kind of in the same sessions as Braden, more of like, any type of federal impact and how that would, come down to the local level. So a lot of our, sessions were more kind of doom and gloom a little bit, but, the one session that I absolutely loved was reaching the wounded student. And it talked about, not all kids are at risk, but they could be something beyond that, and that they would be wounded, and that, you know, the signs that we had to look for, how we would treat those students. And it also went into like well-being, especially for our staff who probably experienced some compassion fatigue. And it was just really good. If I could bring those two presenters to Kansas in any way, I would love to have them. They were just fantastic. I think that they really needed like a 3 or 4 hour session to really get their points across, because we were really rushed in the 75 minutes that we had. And I actually got to talk to one of the presenters. I think the next day she was leaving for the airport, and I, of course, bombarded her at the hotel. But other than that, the general sessions were great. Like Michelle fangirled over Bacon Brothers. I really liked Melissa Stockwell, who is
yes.
she is a wounded Army veteran who received the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star. She was the first woman in the Iraq War that lost a limb, and she is now a Olympian. So she's like 5th in the world or something like that. So I bought her book. So if anybody wants to borrow it, you're more than welcome to, because I've already started listening to her book on not on tape. They're not on tape anymore. But anyway, the audiobook. So you're more than welcome to borrow the book. And then
Nothing.
I
I said, be kind, rewind.
Rewind. Hey, yeah, that's right. So other than that, like it was all great. I don't know if everybody knows, but I also serve on the KASB board. That's something that I started in January, and so I got to participate in the delegate assembly on the pre-session day, and that was very enlightening to kind of know what was happening at the national level within, you know, other school boards and other states and everything like that. So that was really cool. But on top of all of this, even though that we've all been going to NSBA for a really long time, and it is great PD for all of us, I feel like, I do want to state that, and I don't know if everybody actually reads their KASB emails or not, but the KASB board decided in March that we would not be renewing our membership with NSBA. And so the board had a lengthy discussion about that. They felt that some of the, I guess, things that NSBA provided wasn't something that really reflects upon our Kansas board, and that the KASB board really wanted to be more responsible and transparent about their investment of member dues and other KASB revenue. And so we will not be renewing as of July 1. So Kansas will be an independent state at the moment. We are looking at the other association that was formed in 2022, which is called COSBA, and it's a really long name of something. I can't think of it right now. But so I just wanted to make everybody aware that we will not be, KASB will not be joining any type of national affiliation. Not that it was anything bad. We may end up going back to them. We don't know. But as of right now, we're just going to be independent and kind of do our own thing. The executive director, Brian Jordan, has great relationships with like 4 other states. And we're also thinking about kind of joining into some type of regional, I don't know, committee or something like that amongst states, cohort amongst states. Maybe that would be better for us to do, but those states are Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, and Colorado as of right now. So, yeah.
And that being said, led to a lot of discussion about national conference, because those of us that go, we do, you know, attend the session, we get a lot out of it, meeting people around the country, learning how they do things. And so, you know, does that mean we can't go to NSBA? No. But the COSPA that Christy was talking about, NSBA, possibly, you know, doing something with the 4 states around us. So there will be options for us to get that professional development as board members. It'll still be there.
We don't have to be a member of the National Association to attend.
But it might be kind of fun to try something. So, Brad, did you want to say anything about that conference?
Well, looked a lot at the things that, how do we make learning meaningful for our kids? Because that relevance is really important, but really, if you want to be honest, Braden stole my thunder. Sorry. And that is, if you ever think that you've got it bad, just go to a conference, though somebody's got it worse. And I think what I would re-echo is Kansans in general tend to be pretty good common sense people. And you guys have heard me brag about this board is always putting students first and our community first, and coming to a common sense solution. And I would agree with Braden that I think that when legislative time comes out, you see me get very stressed at all that gets thrown against the wall to see if it'll stick. And when push comes to shove and it all gets done because of the people that we have fighting for good common sense solutions that are for kids, there's a lot of it that never sticks. And it's year in and year out. And I still get twisted up, but we still have great people working for us at all different levels. But I just want to shout out to our legislator because
Thank you, Kyle.
yeah.
We talked about you a lot.
My ears were burning off.
But what I thought was also really cool is that at least Braden and I had in one session had 2 guys from Canada that
Oh,
were
yeah.
there. So I thought that was pretty cool and get to talk to them about some stuff. So
Anything else, guys?
No.
And thank you for the opportunity for us to go, because that's a great experience for us. Okay, moving on. I need an approval of the business disposition of business by consent.
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the disposition of business by consent.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the business by consent as presented. All in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, we are now ready for the audit report.
Lisa gets to talk.
No, that's not my favorite part.
The
This year
audit.
is being closed and we get to move forward. So this is our second audit that Stephen has used, Neil and his homies to do the audit.
It's on their letterhead. So
It is, it does say homes now. It has been a great transition. They have really embraced and helped us through that map to e-finance and now to Skyward. So we look forward to using them during that transition and having that partnership with them and Skyward and us together to make it a lot better, hopefully, than this past time. Our audit has one finding in it, but it is, he can even vouch, we have made so much improvement. The staff's, my staff, the building staff, we still got a ways to go. We have an action plan that he's reviewed as well. That we've already started to put in place to address the finding that he'll go over later. And then when he's done, if you have questions, I can answer those. And then we can close 2024. So
Yay.
there you go. No.
All right. As she said, Neil Phillips from Jared Gilmore and Phillips prepared your independent audit for this year. I think we do have pretty good audit sitting in front of us, even though we're going to talk about a finding that we have towards the back, but pretty much really consider it kind of minor. But with the controls and the processes in the audit now, if we have any issue with the internal control, we have to document it. Because if it warrants being talked to the board, it warrants to be put in writing so that everybody can see it. So with that being said, let's skip past the letters that are in your audit and dive straight into the audit report. Page 1, 2, and 3 is the independent audit report. The first paragraph talking about what we audited being USD 345 as of June 30, 2024. The next two paragraphs talk about the fact that we have an adverse opinion, and we have an adverse opinion on our financial statements because we do not follow GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. We follow the Kansas regulatory basis. A lot of people refer to it as the KMAG. It's actually called, another term is the Kansas cash basis and budget laws. Can't spend it if you don't have the money in the fund, and you can't spend it if you don't have that public approval through the budget process. Third paragraph down there is actually the most important paragraph. It's titled there an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. So what that means to you, based on the testing we did, we feel like you have a materially accurate representation of what happened during the year and how you ended the year without any further modification needed. That makes sense. A lot of times you'll hear the slang term a clean opinion, meaning your financial statements are materially correct based on the testing we did. The next section talks about a basis for opinions and the fact that we follow auditing standards that are generally accepted in the United States of America. Because of the federal money that's flowing through the district, we also follow government auditing standards. And then we also follow the Kansas Municipal Audit and Accounting Guide. So we got 3 layers of testing that we do when we come to do your audit. The next section down there at the bottom is management's responsibilities and the fact that everything in this document is yours or your numbers. Then there's a nice section there. It gets a little longer every year with auditors' responsibilities, what our responsibilities with the numbers are. Then the last section there is supplemental information, and it's telling you that we've audited everything that's in the little bound blue book here. And then the very last paragraph on page 3 talks about government auditing standards. Tells you there are other audit reports out there because we follow those government auditing standards. Some auditors actually hand you 2 sets of reports, one for the AICPA reports and one for the government auditing standards. Well, they actually call it a single audit reporting package, so we think it makes better sense to put it all together because it's called a package. So you're going to see them bound in the same document here. Page 4 and 5 is where we spend the majority of our time. It is by statute, it's defined as the statement to show users at a glance that we're in compliance with the cash basis laws. You look at the 4th column over, if any of those were negative, that would be at a glance a violation of Kansas cash basis laws. As you glance down through there, you are going to see that we actually did have one fund that was negative. And just like about every rule, there's always an exception to every rule that's out there. If you have a signed grant agreement or you have bond proceeds that are coming in, you are allowed to go negative because you have a reimbursement coming back. There's actually a statute out there that says if you have that signed grant agreement, because they are a reimbursement, yes, you are allowed to pay that bill, wait for that reimbursement to come in, so you are allowed to go negative. But I like this schedule actually because of the way it breaks it down, because the fund titles kind of help you decide and decipher how we can spend our money or where we can spend our money. A lot of times everybody will hear, oh, we have $20.4 million in the bank. Why are we not doing this? Or why are we not doing that? Well, this kind of helps lay that out. Like the general fund, you can see there, we started the year out with 0, which is required by state statute. We brought in 30.1 and spent 30.1. So we ended the year with 0 cash. The next fund down is our supplemental general. That's the fund that gets our property taxes in it. You can see we started the year out with $1,200. We brought in 10.6 and spent 9.9. So actually ended the year up at $680,000 of unencumbered cash. Sometimes you'll hear that referred to as cash carryover or reserve. So your cash carryover was $680,000 in the supplemental general fund. Then the next section is the special purpose funds. So each of those monies have been set aside for each of that specific purpose. And it kind of follows the type. You've got your 4-year-old at-risk children, which started the year out with 89. We brought in 380, spent 160, so ended the year with 237. Go all the way down towards the bottom there. I'm looking at the totals line. You can see we started the year out with $18.1 million. We brought in $75.8 million. We spent 73.4, so actually increased our unencumbered cash balances by 20,000 to 20,476,000. So I think that's an overall positive for the district. You know, we had funding as we went along. That shows we had good management in place, really, is that we were able to stay level with our funding, but yet increase our unencumbered cash, meaning we made good decisions with our spending. The last two columns there is the add back of encumbrances and accounts payable to get to cash balances, and then a reconciliation of the composition of cash down there at the bottom of that page. Then footnote on page 6, footnote number 1 starts into the summary of significant accounting policies. And if you pick up any school district in the state of Kansas, you're going to see pretty much this exact same footnote in footnote number 1. Because this is prescribed by the Kansas regulatory basis of accounting, because it talks about what the regulatory basis is, how we treat reimbursed expenses, how we treat property taxes. We got a budget schedule on page 8. Page 9, actually footnote number 2 on page 9, middle of the page there, after we get through page 1, is where we actually start getting into the information that's specific to you. Like the first thing we talk about is compliance with Kansas statutes. As you look down through there, you can see we talk about the fact that there is that KSA 10-1116 that allows that exemption, to allows you to go negative in that one fund that was out there. So that was not deemed as a Kansas statute violation. Then we talk about schedule number 1. It's prepared to show users at a glance that we're in compliance with the budget laws. When we get back there and see that here in a minute, you're going to see that we're positive in all those funds. So we were under our publicly approved budget. Then we stop talking about deposits and investments. And the first thing we do is we talk about where and how we can invest our monies. I said we have $20 million in the bank out there, or cash carryover. We can't just go invest that anywhere we want to. Can't put it in the stock market. We're limited by state statute to only invest in safe investments, basically. So we list out where and how we can invest our money there as a district. We talk about the majority of it on the next page being covered by FDIC insurance or letters of credit with a pledging institution. I do want to point out, I'm going to skip past the footnote number 4 there because I like footnote number 6 better on page 12. It shows that footnote number 4 in a better, easier way to read it. That's the long-term debt, which includes those capital leases that we just skipped past. But you've got your capital leases, your certificates of participation, and then your general obligation bonds. And you can see, otherwise that's our debt as a district. You can see we started the year out with $51.4 million of long-term debt. We paid that down by $4,096,000. So we actually came into the new year with $47.3 million of notes payable or bonds, loans, leases, however you want to classify that. And then right below that is the payout, in which you can see there's 5-year increment or 5 years. And then 5-year chunks after that, because you know most of our planning we do is in 5-year phases as a district. Footnote number 13, I do want to point out on that page. Actually, it's on page 14, the bottom of that same footnote. I do want to talk about the CAPERS net pension liability. As we all know, the state of Kansas is short with the CAPERS system. At year end, your share of the state shortfall is $38.7 million. I'm on page 14. It's a third paragraph down. So your share of the CAPERS system shortfall is $38.7 million. So if CAPERS gave you the money, the state of Kansas gave you it back and said, here, you administer it, and they're going to give you the cash to administer it, you would be short $38 million to be able to pay out all of your teachers and all your employees' retirements. Well, we would hope the state general fund would step up and help pay for that. The legislator, Kyle. You need to make sure you get that taken care of, right?
It's a well about issue. Please.
Yes. But just, I want to make sure that you see that, because that number scares a lot of people sometimes. But that number is not shown as a liability. It's not a funded liability at the district level. It's a disclosed liability. If we were doing GAAP financial statements, as some of the others, school districts in other states do, that is a liability against your assets that shows up. Where in the state of Kansas, it's really just a disclosure, because really the thought process is that hopefully the state will step up and pay that shortfall if it ever happened. All right, I'm not gonna sit and read the rest of the footnotes to you, so I'm gonna have you turn to page 18 in the interest of time. Page 18 is schedule number 1. It is to show users at a glance that we're in compliance with the budget laws of the state of Kansas. Very last column there, as you glance down through there, if any of those were positive, it'd be considered a violation of state statute, being we spent more than what was publicly approved. As you glance down through there, you can see we were under our budget on all of the funds. And so we were in compliance with the budget laws of the state of Kansas. Then page 19 starts into the numbers getting a little deeper, where the front financial statements was just a summary by fund of all the totals. Like page 19, the general fund, your state aid, we give a prior year comparison in there. You can see in the prior year, we collected $23.6 million in state aid. In 2024, it was at $24.6 million of state aid, but we'd actually budgeted for 25. Glance down through there, you've got your expenses are in the different categories or departments per se, as opposed to the natural line. So you're not seeing the line called salaries or rent or anything like that. But you guys down through there, you can see your expenses. The format that's in all of these schedules here are going to follow the format that your public budget is approved in. So that's what the state of Kansas has us do, is put this in that same format that you approve the budget in. That budget then goes to the state level. They do their summary because they want all of them to look the same so they can accumulate their numbers to be able to report, do state reporting. But you've got all your funds here listed out. There's 23 different funds that you've got monies in. I don't think we need to set and point out into each individual one. Like I said, you looking through there, you're going to see we had a positive year in a majority of the funds. So with that being said, if you turn to page 45, I do want to point out page 45, 46, 47, and 48 are the agency funds. So those are cash that's in your account, and it is per se somebody else's money, but we're still responsible for it. And when we get to our finding here in a minute, this is the funds that we're talking about. So, we're looking at the class of 2024, the disc golf club, the fishing club, all the different organizations and agency funds that you have as a district there. The first, 2.5 pages are the high school funds. The middle school starts in the middle of page 47. And then you can see there's just a few elementary school items there on page 48. But a total of $205,000 out there of funds that are considered agency funds. Out of the $25 million that we had in cash in bank, $205,000 of that was monies that were considered agency funds. The next page is the district activity funds. So it'd be like the athletics. These are the funds that are out there being held in all these different areas. It comes down to a total of $307,000 of cash on page 51. All right, page 52 and 53 is the start of the section because we're required to follow government auditing standards because of the federal money that you have flowing through the district. This first schedule is called a schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So this is the federal money that the district's getting, whether it be directly or indirectly coming through the state. You've got a cash receipts column and a disbursements column. We list it out by the different U.S. departments. So like U.S. Department of Education, 3/4 of the way down there, you can see we brought in $1.9 million of cash receipts and we actually spent $1.8 million of Department of Education money. A little bit of Health and Human Services money this last year. We finished spending that grant out and actually got our last payment. The next page has our school lunch program, or our meals program, which includes breakfast, lunch, and summer food, for a total of $1.3 million coming from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, for a total of $3.1 million that you spent as a district last year in federal monies, which that's always a positive too, because that's coming out of the federal taxpayer's pocket rather than the local taxpayer's pocket, which, yeah, we all pay federal tax, but that federal taxpayer's pocket's a lot bigger than just ours in the local district level. All right, page 54 and 55 is the first of the reports. The first one is internal controls and compliance at the upper district level, because we're following the government auditing standards. This is that report I was referring to just a minute ago, that if we have any issues with internal controls that we feel like need to be talked about with the board, we are required to then put it into writing in this report. So this report you're going to see is a modified report, because we did have one item that came about while we were doing your testing that we really feel like we've got to get some controls over. The next report, and we'll talk about that finding, we got a summary of findings in the back here. The next report is on page 56, 57, and 58. That takes it down to what they call the major program level, in which we are required to test some of your federal money for law compliance with laws and regulations. In your case, this last year, we tested the Title I grant program, and then we tested your special ed program, all the federal monies with the special ed program. And as you read through this report, you're going to see it as an unmodified report, because we had no problems with the federal dollars that we were spending, no problems with the compliance or the internal controls that was out there. Page 59, where a lot of people say I should have in the first place. The federal government does not want to have to flip page by page of your audit. They want a one-page synopsis to tell them all the results of your audit in a one-page summary. That first bold heading that says financial statements, that was the audit report that was on page 1, 2, and 3. As you read through there, you can see it talks about it was an adverse opinion on GAAP. However, it was an unmodified opinion on the regulatory rates of accounting. The next bold heading says internal control over financial reporting. That was the audit report that was on page 54 and 55. You can see no material weaknesses. However, we did have one significant deficiency out there. And then non-compliance required to be reported is marked as a no also. Then the next bold heading is the federal awards. That's the report that was on page 56, 57, and 58. Again, you can glance down through there, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. It was an unmodified opinion. There are no findings on the federal level. There's those programs that I said that we tested as major. Your threshold for A and B programs is still at 750. They changed that rule last year in October, but it doesn't take effect until the next October. That goes to $1 million. So you're still at the 750. And then low risk auditee, we still are marked as a no. Every school district in the state of Kansas is marked as a no right now, because the federal government does not recognize our regulatory basis of accounting as an acceptable basis of accounting. So every school district in the state of Kansas is marked no, because we follow the regulatory basis of accounting prescribed by statute. Top of the next page is that finding that we were talking about a little while ago. This is an internal control issue in which we really feel like needs to get taken care of. And it is at the district level when we're dealing with those activity funds and those agency funds. We're not properly issuing and accounting for the cash receipts that are coming in the door, meaning we need to issue a receipt to every single person that puts some money into an account. Then we need to be able to add up these receipts and see they went to the bank. We were not able to do that. This would be the second year for this finding. Lisa's been working with staff. She got all the other findings taken care of this last year. And I was told she just had a class last week with all of the building people. And she's assured me that this is not going to be a problem in the next year. So I fully take, I will take her word and hope it won't be. Then you have federal findings. You can see it says none down there at the bottom of page 60. And then on page 61, you've got the resolution to the prior year findings, in which we had the general ledger reconciliations. Everything's up to date. We got our banks reconciled. This year's audit really went well compared to the prior year. We probably had about half the time in it this last year as compared to the prior year, if you remember all the issues that we had in the prior year. So we're making a lot of headway. And then we've got an allowable cost item that was also taken care of during the year, which was some teacher documentation with our Title I program. We tested that again this year. All of that has been taken care of and finalized and is no longer an issue. Then on page 62, that is management's corrective action plan, in which, as you're reading through those other reports, you're going to see that we do not give an opinion on the corrective action plan, because like I just said, I fully believe she's going to do it, but I haven't tested her yet to see if she did do it. So there's not an opinion on this corrective action plan, but however, management typed this up to say, this is what we're going to do to fix the issue. The federal government wants to see what you're planning on doing. Instead of giving you a call, they want it to be already in the audit so they can read it. All right, there's a letter that was in your audits. This letter is for boards only, which we have a lot of grantors that are now asking for it. It's what they call a letter to those charged with governance. It's a separate letter. It was on the letterhead. Should have put in all the board letters. I see a couple of people have it. This letter is what we call our presentation letter. If we had any difficulties encountered during the audit, problems with management, we would have came to you and said, Lisa's not cooperating, Brad won't make her. We need the board to make the staff cooperate with us. I'm making light of this letter. It's a boilerplate letter. We did not have any issues that arose during our procedures during the audit. However, it's required that we now put it in writing so you can see those exact things that we're talking about there. No corrected mistake or uncorrected misstatements were accepted, no difficulties, no disagreements with management. We didn't consult outside accountants because you're doing something crazy with your records. Like I said, boilerplate, but it is required to give that to you. So it is important that you do read through it. The third page is the adjustments, if we're where the numbers went from where you last seen them to how they show up in the audit. And then the very last section of that is what they call the management representation letter, which that is the representations that have been made between the auditor and management. Says that I remembered to tell you everything that I was supposed to tell you. I like to refer that as the reminder letter, because as Brad read through it, oh, wait, I forgot to tell Neil about that lawsuit, or I forgot to tell Neil about the problem with the IRS we're having. As you read through that letter, you're going to see it's boilerplate because we didn't have any of those kind of items that needed to be discussed. But it is, like I said, required to be presented to you so you can see those representations that have been made between management and the company. What kind of questions do you have of them? Kind of a quick presentation, but also pretty long for some people.
No, we appreciate you. This is definitely a big turn from last year's audit, so good job, Lisa, and your staff on
Yes,
getting this turned around. Because
thank you, Lisa.
somebody who has read through all of these a lot of times, this is fantastic. And thank you for presenting, because I actually read an article today, I think it was through ASBO, that said that school boards basically don't take enough time to read through their budgets and make that discussion in their audits and stuff. And I was like, we just spent how long going through this? And they said that most boards only spend about 15 minutes. So I feel I really was, a little heated after I read that, because I was like, I feel like we spend a lot of time. So
I think we're an exception.
You know,
to a lot of
Truthfully, I really feel like what you were saying a while ago about the state of Kansas, we do 20 school districts in the state of Kansas. And I can tell you that we care in the state of Kansas about
but
our
thank you.
numbers, our kids.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to go through all of
Yes,
this with
thank
us
you.
and everything. We appreciate it.
Maybe even more so just being able to be simple, concise, understandable. I am gonna ask one favor of you, if you
Yes.
don't mind, on page 16, footnote 8, where it says other employees. Will you explain to the board what you analyzed in those with that retirement incentive?
What page did you say, Brad?
Page 16, other employees. We're talking about the early retirement there. And so Lisa provides us a list of them. We go through and we analyze and try to decide how many people are going to be paid out into the future. During this last year, you actually paid $297,000 out for early retirement. And then those are your commitments into the future for the employees that are out there that are in the program for early retirement. And again, that's one of those numbers that's disclosed, but it's not been funded, so it's not as a liability up in those front financial statements. So that's something we fund as we go. So that's the annual contribution that you're going to have to make or come up with in the future.
Thank you. Any questions? Other questions? Anything, guys? All right. Thank you very much, sir.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate you. Lisa, do we need to sign this letter? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa, for all of your work. I know that you don't like to be in the limelight, but you've done amazing things. Thank you for being a part of us. I think what was, and do you guys need her to go over that or what she's doing to correct? Or we read it. I mean, I think we're good, Lisa. Thanks.
Pretty simple.
Just go purchase a bunch of receipt books, right?
Yeah. We've got to use them though, and that's the more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got to make sure
Everywhere.
everyone is using them.
So just question. Good, you do it. So we have a receipt book that's numbered, yeah, and you have X number of receipts and they total. What's our check to make sure that I get money from John Q. Public? And I don't fill out a receipt, so it's still gonna balance. I'm just,
Typically, any cash up front is supposed to have a dual account. So if I am Secretary A and I get $50, that receipt is supposed to be. I'll
What if
write
they
the
are-
receipt, the meals don't count that cash.
what if they aren't making a receipt?
Well, that's why we got that. That's what the finding indicated, is we weren't doing that, so we could go back and prove that to where now with it, what we have in place will be a mandate for signing off and we trained on it, that they have to have it, that it receipted, the receipt was turned into us. We just did a mini audit, started a mini audit to review any deposits on the buildings that come to us, to make sure we have those, not we're tasked with finding them, is we from the fact. But that is one of the reasons why we had that practice in place, was because we couldn't say that Secretary A was not. Without that, we could prove what came in versus what was in the base.
So to your point, we probably a lot of times have had people say, I don't need a receipt, no big deal. We need people to stand there and watch them write a receipt. Because then it's in
I'm
a
not
numbered
saying it's
receipt
happening,
book,
but it's just.
it could.
They have to write a receipt regardless if the people want a receipt.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they don't have to take it, but it's.
And one thing is
documented.
documented. And the building still have to receive it. Not only, it's protected employee as well as us. So,
And we're talking everybody in the district.
yes, but only your secretaries of the building, the Teresa downstairs, nice staff. Besides that, there's really not a lot of it, but each building has received those. We have.
Our coaches
Concession.
are,
That's where the trick part is with the deposit at high school bank. Some of that goes into the high school bank as student fund. And so they're receiving it as they fill out the deposits, so they know it should bounce back to what they receive. But if I were, say, I made letters for my t-shirts, when I have to hand you that deposit, I now instead of these 12 kids paid with this check number, this amount. The third document should then match what we count and see that it's done. You can't do it, because it is hard to do.
yeah,
I receive, we get them all in one day. But they are responsible for writing something to account for.
Good.
Actually, you know, here. Right.
okay.
Gate receipts and concessions have a multiple count. And that box that has a designated amount to start with. They have to, obviously, they have a double ticketing in our gate receipts. So they have to send a ticket. And then they know that based on the starting ticket and ending ticket, how many should have been sold of each type. And then that should equal the amount of money that they receive. There is a difference in there. Sometimes that happened. I gave them back $17 instead of $7 because I subtracted. we make note of that and do that. But it should balance on to the beginning balance.
Just one.
No, it's great questions and it's. We had a long ways to go from where we started.
Cash is always a.
And it's, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Good discussion as well. Okay, moving on. Megan, are you doing the whole thing? Okay.
All right, good evening. I am going to begin on page 4. Just in recognition that we are in the midst of our needs assessment process. So just last Friday, we had our professional development day, and this was an opportunity for buildings to work on getting the feedback portion from their staff, since we had that opportunity with staff all gathered together. Our elementary principals met today to do some debriefing as they're looking at their data and identifying trends within their needs assessment. And we'll be doing the same work with our secondary principals, all in preparation of sharing that data and report with you come May. Also at the bottom of page 4 is just a note about our KISA School Improvement Day. So coming up on April 22nd, a small subgroup of our district leadership team is going to be joining representatives from Shawnee Heights, Washburn Rural, and Manhattan for our Regional School Improvement Day. And this is our opportunity to dive into our identified KISA fundamentals, which are structured literacy and standards alignment, and build an action plan and have an opportunity to get feedback from these other nearby districts on what they're doing as we formally identify our structures and our learning measures as we set those official goals for next year. So I'm
interrupt you real quick.
Yeah.
Because I do want to brag on our teaching and learning team is they met with us in KSDE, was very complimentary and said we were beyond where they expected us to be. And that's due to the work of Megan and Rod and Deidre and their teams.
Yeah.
On what? Yes.
Yes, yep. So back in March, we had our KISA meeting and
So
it's
Megan, is that the Keisha 2? That you're working
Yes.
the KISA 2.0. Yep, so we're in the first official year of it, where we are setting our action plan. So that's the school improvement day that I referenced here coming up in just a couple weeks is our time where we officially plan what the structures and our measures are going to be for our goal. And then we submit it to KSDE for formal approval right after that. So it's kind of a good time wrapping up the year and looking towards next year so that we can start next year hit the ground running with the goals that we'll have set here at the end of this year. Any other questions on that? Okay, I'm going to jump back, excuse me, one page to page 3, just to highlight our post-secondary student follow-up data. So as part of our work with KSDE in measuring our CTE processes. Annually, we have our student follow-up data that's actually officially due tomorrow, but we have already submitted for this year. Sorry, let me go. And you can see the data within there that we gathered as part of the follow-up process. And this data was gathered through work with our counseling teachers, as well as our teachers who worked with our graduating seniors and actually reaching out to students who we didn't have information from through those other outlets. And you can see the information that is provided to KSDE is our data on any student who was identified as a concentrator in any of our CTE pathways. So a concentrator is someone who has taken at least 2 courses, either introductory, technical, or application within a pathway. So for example, of last year's graduating class, we had 196 students who were concentrators in at least one pathway. Many could have been concentrators in more than one pathway. And so really the follow-up data was asking them 2 things. How satisfied were you with your preparation for your post-secondary events? And then what is it that you are currently engaged in? And you can see those bullet points there list the different options of what they might be doing now. You can see our highest percent, 57% are continuing their education in a baccalaureate program, but you can see the other percentages and numbers of students. So it's interesting data at any given year to see the direction that our graduate students are headed post-secondary. And then overall, I think it's a tremendous celebration that we had a 94% success rate for being either very satisfied or satisfied from our graduates when they were contacted. So wanted to take an opportunity to share that data to you and recognize our high school staff who really spent the time gathering that. Okay, and then
What was it? I'm sorry, what was the total number of students in the class, the graduating class last year?
oh, I would have to look it up to give you the official number.
Thought it was just below 300. but I couldn't
Yes,
figure it.
yeah. Yes, as I say, I had it in front of me when I did all the math, so I can reverse the math for you since I did not include the number here, but yep. Okay, my final piece on the report is just to highlight, there's a plethora of activities that are listed within here that are just wrapping up the school year. So for example, there's information on second grade day of the farm, which was last Thursday. I had the opportunity to stop by and it really is just such a fun event and it's completely student led. So I want to shout that out to our amazing ag department as well as our 8th grade intro to ag students who also supported. And the second grade students attending were just having a great time. It was a little windy, but good. So that's just one example of the many things such as our Kansas Kids Fitness Days, our track meets that are held, our career fair for 6th graders, all the end of the year activities and promotions, and all of our staff who work so hard to create these memorable events for our students. So this is just a general shout out to all of them. It's a very busy time of year, but it's a fun time of year with lots going on. Any questions for me? Okay, I'm gonna stay up here. a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, stool.
Yeah, I should have brought that camper, 'cause I'm gonna camp out.
Workplace math essential.
Yes.
curriculum.
Last month I brought you curriculum adoptions and I have one additional curriculum adoption that I would like to propose to you tonight. And this is for our workplace math essentials course, which is a new course that we have included in the program planning guide starting next year. It's kind of the counterpart to our workplace reading essentials course, targeting some of those same students who just need an additional math option as they're looking to their next steps post-secondary. And so we need just a little bit of extra time in order to identify what the best resource would be for that new course. A couple of our math department teachers looked at some options and they identified the resource mathematics for the trades, a guided approach. You can see what the quote is for that I've included. And this is a quote for just the print textbooks. So the textbooks that will allow the teacher to use this curriculum in order to support the class. So bringing that additional curriculum proposal to you. Any questions?
Nope.
All right.
Instructional technology.
Yes. Okay. As Jeff pulls this one up, I'll give you a little bit of background to the why behind the philosophy. So as we were beginning to talk about technology refresh, both for secondary for next year and then elementary for the year following, I kind of brought up between the teaching and learning team and IT, you know, what is our philosophy when it comes to technology integration in the classroom? We talk a lot about it and some of the best practices, but we didn't have anything that was really in print to go from when we're having conversations with teachers or making some of our technology decisions. And so from that stemmed an opportunity where to both our instructional coaches and our administrative teams, I just kind of posed that question of what is our philosophy? How do we talk about technology and determine what and how technology should be used in the classroom? And they gave some tremendous feedback. So from the feedback of those teams, I really grouped it into the 4 categories that you can see on this philosophy. And the 4 categories are instruction with technology, supervision and management, some of the pieces with their screen time considerations, and AI guidelines. I'll also add in the screen time considerations category, all of this was also happening in the fall when you recall that KSDE had a screen time task force that was also diving into recommendations to make with or in relation to screens. And so the task force and other documents that have been helpful in kind of developing the philosophy are all linked within this document. But really what the screen time task force came down to was making sure that students get technology breaks throughout the day. That's one of their main recommendations, which is good judgment and good practice to be had. And it kind of fits in with all the other pieces here. So for example, as we look at the instruction with technology category up at the top, and what's called the SAMR model, which is a model of technology integration, which if you put it very simply, just means let's please be intentional in how we're using technology. Think about the learning activity that you want students to do in order to, show, to learn a skill or to improve on a particular standard. And if you're wanting to use technology, how does that enhance the learning experience for them? Or can it be done in another way, maybe paper pencil that's just as effective and technology isn't going to enhance the learning experience? And just being very thoughtful and use the word intentional again on how we are using it. And so that we can give those technology breaks throughout the day while still being very meaningful and leveraging technology in ways that can really enhance the learning experience, and kind of talking about that with staff when we have instructional conversations regarding technology. The supervision and management category just talks about how we have Apple Classroom and other tools that support monitoring students when they are on their devices, as well as just some smart tips for managing within there. So I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, and I want to land on AI guidelines just to wrap up. These AI guidelines, we started the draft guidelines almost a year ago now. It was kind of end of last spring into the summer, and gave opportunities for staff to give feedback on them at the beginning of the year by going through building leadership teams. And but we hadn't had an opportunity to kind of share these with staff and loop them in on the guidelines that we were developing. So all of this is being shared with you tonight as a follow-up that this was shared with staff last Friday, both elementary and secondary staff. So they have an idea behind what our technology philosophy is, and they had an opportunity to see the AI guidelines. And I've encouraged them to give feedback to their principals on these AI guidelines if there's anything that they would want to tweak, because we are planning to embed these AI guidelines into the handbooks that will be coming to you guys in June. So overall, this philosophy wanted to share so you know that we now have a technology philosophy. Principals and coaches help develop it. Again, it's meant to be a guide and a reference and a tool for when we're having those instructional conversations about what is our practice, what do we believe, and the guidelines that will be coming to you within handbooks. So any questions for me on the instructional technology philosophy?
You don't mind, Megan brought this, I don't know if it was executive cabinet or just to me one time, and we'd been working with AI guidelines and they were gonna go in the handbook. And I really thought this was something that I wanted her to show you, this work, that we're not doing technology just for technology's sake. And I think there has been a time with schools that it was almost the expectation, well, you need to be one-to-one. Okay, but going one-to-one is not necessarily by itself improving learning. And it can even detract from learning, to be quite honest. And so Megan and her teams have put a lot of thought of how do we use technology in a way that ensures that it is enhancing our learning and not detracting from it. So thank you.
So
Purposeful. Purposeful.
oh, yes, purposeful. Yeah. Intentional. That's my favorite word, I guess.
Yeah.
Purposeful and intentional.
Okay, moving on.
Yes.
Fast bridge assessment.
Okay, so I referenced last Friday. Last Friday, our staff heard about the technology philosophy. Our elementary staff also heard about a proposal being made from the teaching and learning team to switch to FastBridge as our benchmark assessment tool. And I'll say it's like early childhood elementary heard this proposal, because we are actually looking at bringing FastBridge from down to pre-K now all the way up through 12. So as a reminder, our middle school and high school have already made the switch to FastBridge. So middle school's in its second year of FastBridge, high school's in its first, and those have been very positive transitions. Elementary, K-6 has been with the Acadience assessment for both reading and math for many, many years. And then pre-K has been using the tool called My IGDs for their benchmark assessment. If we move to FastBridge, we'll have that pre-K-12 alignment, which will allow consistency in our reading and math benchmark data at all levels. So for example, our preschool friends that will be entering kindergarten, those teachers would have the same data to look at within the same system. So it's more like looking at apples to apples instead of apples to oranges between two different data systems. So allow us to be just that much more effective in having data-based conversations in order to meet our students' needs. So I'm bringing it to you tonight, and we can move to the next slide, Jeff, that just highlights some of the benefits that we've identified in this transition to FastBridge. It continues to be a state-approved screener to meet our dyslexia requirements. But something that it would provide us that we don't currently have is access to Lexile and Quantile scores. And what that means is Lexile is your reading level, like a numeric level that tells you kind of what the best type of reading or level of reading is going to be for any particular student. And Quantile is the same thing for math. It also will allow us to do some personalized skill plans through IXL, which is a free resource made available through the state. So you can take a student's FastBridge score and they can get some work that is personalized exactly to their needs. So that's a pretty neat feature that we can't currently access. And just some of the data and reporting that is available in FastBridge is more robust than what we currently have with Acadience and My IGDs. There's also some efficiencies that will be found within FastBridge that we don't currently have, such as whole group administration. Once students are at our intermediate grades and higher, we're able to administer to a whole group, and any of our students who score at or above, that's the end of their assessment for reading or for math. And any students who score at risk, then we do follow-up testing. But it is a time saver where currently with Acadience, our students, it's one-on-one testing for all of those kids instead of having the opportunity for some whole group assessment. Also, since FastBridge does have a partnership with the state, there are many professional development opportunities that our staff can go to, both in launching this and then throughout the year. Whereas we don't have that with Acadience. We are very much in the minority being an Acadience district, so we don't get very many PD opportunities offered in the state. The next two slides are just a quick glance at what those assessments would be, both for reading and for math. And the interesting thing on these slides to look at are the little icons next to the different measures. When it has the little faces with the red bubbles, that's indicating those are one-on-one assessments. Versus when you see the computer screen, that's indicating that it's a whole group assessment. So that's where you start to have the time saving. But I think it's important to show that when we're still at our early levels where our students are learning to read, it is incredibly essential to still have those one-on-one assessments with those students. So that will continue until they're at that reading to learn older level. And so that's with reading. And then Jeff, the next one is on math. And so again, we start at the primary ages with one-on-one assessments, and then you can move into automated assessments as they get older. So finally, my favorite slide, because who doesn't like saving money? We're going to be saving money with this as well. So when you look at this chart, the color coding, the red on the left, that's what we've currently spent this year on our 3 separate assessments. The My IGDs at pre-K, Acadience, what it cost us for K6, and what our FastBridge currently was for 7-12. So you can see what the total was for this year. In making a 5-year commitment with FastBridge, for pre-K-12, all grades, it'll just be $13,300 a year. So just 1 year, next year already, we'd be saving about $14,000, and over the period between now and 29 to 30, we'll be saving about just shy of $71,000 by making the switch.
Nice.
I know. No, it's like the grand finale, right?
That's when the fireworks.
Expected that, didn't you?
As I say, to me, the why is all the other reasons and then the money to boot. But there really is a lot of instructional reasons why to make the shift. So,
Nice.
any questions for me? Yes.
So on the Acadience and the My IGDs, are we at the end of the contract?
Yes, each of those were just annual contracts. I would renew every spring. So pending approval, I just would not approve for next year.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you. That was great.
I'm gonna still be here, but step to the side because.
I was gonna say, Jeff, you're up.
I got a quick question back. So Fast Bridge, going back to the screen where you had the individual,
Yes.
is that the one where they give the a test to the class and if Johnny's a little behind, it will come up automatically with some worksheets or something that the teacher can use? Am I thinking right?
You are thinking along those lines, yes. So Johnny and the rest of the class would all get the whole group assessment. And let's say Johnny has a couple skill deficits in a couple of areas. Fastbridge then identifies that, say Johnny needs to work on such and such. Here's a sample of a lesson that you could do to work on this skill and some, particular things you might do. So, yep.
And our Acadians don't do that?
No, right now we get the data, but it's very much manual and our teachers have learned and are good at it over the years, looking at the data and saying, okay, these students maybe have a deficit in first sound fluency, maybe, and they then would group them together and work on first sound fluency. Fastbridge is going to do that for them, instead of having to do it themselves. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Price loan agreement, let's start there. This is the first time we've really made any wholesale changes or proposing wholesale changes to this document in quite a while. Currently, what we do for our own self-insurance policy is we have students pay a tech fee at the beginning of the year, and then we have a rolling coverage of damages. So like right now, if the student has a repair on their device, the first time they're responsible for 20% of it, we cover the 80%. Second time it's 50-50. Third time it's 80-20, where they pay the 80, we pay the 20. Anytime after that, they're responsible for the full amount. Now that we're
100%?
Not yet.
Not yet.
no, yes. Ouch.
But you meant what? Hey, it took me a while.
Me too.
Picking on her.
That's funny.
You know what he meant, didn't you?
But as you guys heard when we ordered our devices to refresh 7th through 12th grade, we're doing Apple Care this time. And that's going to save us a significant amount of repair costs. Our thought process was if we continue with the current format of our repairs, the prices are going to go up significantly. So just for example, a screen repair costs $79 for the student's first incident at 20%. With the parts prices going up for the new models of laptops and just everything else in the economy right now, it's going to go over $100 just for the 20%. Since we're going to be saving so much money going with Apple Care, we wanted to try to pass those savings down to our families and have them pay less for repairs. So what we came up with was a tiered approach. And you can kind of see in these charts broken out by computers and iPads. So we would tier our most common repair types and just assign a flat dollar value for them. So like your display would be a $75 repair every time it happens. So you wouldn't end up paying, several $100s if you happen to break 2 displays in a year, which does happen. It's very rare that we get to 3. 2 is pretty rare. 3 hardly ever happens. I think I've only had 1 in the last 5 years that have done more than that.
How many charger cables?
Gosh,
That was sarcasm.
we go through hundreds and hundreds of cables.
Okay, I
and
did
chargers.
pay, I paid.
I
for
I
that
paid
and-
for a few.
We go through lots. Just to give you an idea, we repair about 200 screens every year.
Jeff, can I ask you a question? How, because we're switching to iPads for elementary. Do you have any concerns about, do you have any, how many repairs do you go through computer wise for
So the
elementary?
just at the elementary level?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
It's
They're
way less at the elementary level because they don't take them home.
I say they're probably nicer than
Our
the
repair
older.
rate at the elementary level is a fraction of.
Do you have any concerns about iPads?
They're actually more durable.
Okay,
So cost wise, iPads are significantly less expensive to acquire and maintain.
are they gonna have pencils too?
There's less of the like screen slows.
Yeah.
Things like possible.
That's true. And I forgot elementary doesn't take them home, so,
So their repair rate is much less.
okay.
Nice.
But you can kind of see what our proposed repair chart is for both computers and iPads. This went to the Tech Advisory Committee a few weeks ago and let everybody have input and suggestions. Overall, the thought was pretty positive towards this and passing on some of our savings from Apple Care to our families and keeping their responsibilities as cheap as we can and still make this sustainable for us going forward.
So what do we pay per computer?
They're a little over 1,000.
But we're only charging families 200 if they're lost or can't be
If
repaired.
they can't be repaired. So we use their tech fee to kind of self-insure us. So that builds us a pot of money for our portion of the repairs.
Gotcha.
And that doesn't happen often.
Okay.
I think we probably, in the last 4 years, we probably lost or had stolen 30, 35.
That's not bad.
Percentage wise, it's pretty low.
And there's not really any sense to quote, steal it and then pay $200 because you will turn it into a brick.
Right. It's unusable once it leaves us.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
So we
I
still
was
have to
just
make it,
curious.
painful enough to,
Yeah.
please don't take it. But not so much that it's just a burden.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Yes.
So you have computer can't be repaired or is lost, 200. Computer is not returned because it's lost, it's 800.
So the not returned is when you, and it says it in the writing of it. The $800 fee is if you transfer out of the district and don't return your device.
What's that different from being lost?
Because they're still, if they don't return it when they transfer out, they essentially stole it.
It's in district
All
versus,
they have to do is say they lost.
no, but if they're transferring out.
Right, so like if they're still a student with us, we can still kind of track where it's at. Most of the time, when students leave and don't give it back, it gets shoved in a closet somewhere or sold and it never gets turned on again, and we have no means to find it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the loss is a student, still a student in our district.
Yes. Correct.
And I was sitting low loss because really mostly it got stolen out of my car or.
Right, yes, right.
Yes. Which is better than my child, who's had 2 cars stolen in the last 6 months.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, so we'll move on to student AUA. Now, there really hasn't been any changes to this other than the way it's organized and the wording. The content of it is still the same. Some of the verbiage was outdated. It hadn't been modified in very, very long time. So just to kind of bring it into 2025, we regrouped things so it flowed a little better. Changed some of the verbiage to reflect 2025 instead of 2016, 17. Things have changed a little bit, but all in all, it's really the same content, just kind of reorganized. Any questions on that one? Okay. And then the employee AUA is still the same as it was. We haven't changed anything in here for this coming year. I think we still want to go through and do the same thing maybe over the summer for the next go around and kind of clean up the language in this one to mirror what the student one looks like. Again, there's just kind of some flow issues in this one that jumps around a little bit. All in all, the content's still the same.
Yeah, and the difference between the employee AUA and the student AUA is this AUA, the document is actually not what our employees actually use because it goes through a KSB training where it's more of a slideshow that they click through and then agree to at the end. So if we change verbiage on this one, we have to go on
Just-
KSB, which we can.
Yep,
but-
not a big deal.
Okay. Any questions?
So on our iPads and computers for the students and teachers or staff, what do you have locked out?
It's a long list.
Give me a general then.
No social media.
No,
So
yeah,
for students, we have no social media, all of the adult content, obviously firearms, there's your typical buzzword stuff. We block by category. Shopping, things like that.
They can't
games.
get on Amazon.
No Amazon.
Can't be.
A lot of the streaming services like Pandora are blocked. Those are time wasters. A lot of the games, pretty much all games. That's one of the biggest hurdles that we have to jump through with kids is keeping them off of games during class. It's pretty locked down.
okay. I knew they were, I was just curious.
It'd be easier to ask what they can.
Well, true.
And actually, we're moving next year with these new laptops to a new management platform that we're trying out called Mosul instead of Jamf. That's going to give us a lot more granularity and control and finality over what they can get to on the web. Like everything else, there's ways to undo rules and get around and skate around firewalls. Where we're moving to with this new platform, it's locked and you're stuck. It can't be bypassed.
So can a student load their own email besides their school email? Can I?
We have them currently
Gmail or
locked
something?
to their own district account. So now they could on a different browser, try to log into a personal one. But they're required to, depending on what group they are, we have some highly filtered groups for kids that are having trouble, but they can't log into any personal Gmail accounts or Hotmail accounts or anything like that. Hotmail, I just dated myself.
I still have
AOL.
That's what I use.
But like, there's also, I know that like Phoebe can get to her Gmail account because she's emailing like with P Club outside of a district for certain things.
Correct.
And you can't email a student at their district address, and you also have a district address, so like there's protection
Oh, I didn't
there.
realize that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
students
So
can't use
They
external.
can't get any outside emails? It has to be
Students
internal?
can't send or receive to anybody
So-
outside of the district.
You have to be careful not to block out everything because of those kids who are involved in researching and all that sort of thing. That's been a learning process, I think, for the technology department as well, over
It is.
what they need access to and.
TikTok, YouTube, all-
It's all, it's all locked down.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
So you were talking about the program to, I don't,
Me?
monitoring the management program. So do you do that or is that a teacher per teacher?
I'd say we do it all.
You do it
Say
all?
that too. So we have kind of
I've
a,
been on YouTube. If you learn how to
I don't know,
change.
if there's not an official policy or procedure that they do, but
Yeah.
as teachers come across things, say, hey, kids are wasting my
Yeah.
time doing this. They come to us, we find it, we consult.
Okay.
with our teaching and learning and say, hey, this is a problem, we need to stop it.
Yeah.
And
There's-
Donna, there's an opportunities the other direction as well, where like the kids are doing some big
Sure.
research projects and they say, we really
Yeah.
need access to this, and
Yeah.
Jeff looks into it and figures out. So it's been been
Nice.
collaborative.
Yeah, it's a two-way street for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff,
Yeah.
very much for
Thanks, Jeff.
everything
Thanks,
you do.
Megan.
Thanks, Megan. Deidre.
With the cute hair. Good job on those assurances, or was that Lisa?
No, it was me. I found them. I clapped. Yes, thank you for approving them. I'm gonna highlight the first section. I'm going to my report first, Jeff, the board report. Just the first section because it was really honestly a highlight of my month. I was thinking about recruitment, how I need to recruit special education teachers. So I sent out an email to the paraprofessional group, just saying, hey, if you guys would be interested in being a special education teacher, reach out and I'll come meet with you. Well, I started meeting with people and I thought, I don't have time to meet with everybody one at a time. So I sent it out and I set up just one meeting at Logan Elementary in the library a couple of weeks ago after school. And had about 20 respond that they would be there, and I think 12 attended. And then a lot more I'm sending out information to.
But do you have, asking questions like, first of all, are you, ground zero? Do you need to start taking classes? What's available for you? Do you have some classes under your belt? A couple of them had bachelor's degrees in some other field. One of them in business. Can't remember the other one right now. But what do you do to become a special education teacher if you have those classes? So anyway, I gave them the information and the pathways to that. And also introduced them to the Kansas Region Scholarship. So if you're in a Title I school, or if you're interested in a field that is hard to fill, which is special education, you can get everything paid for through that Kansas Region Scholarship, which they're very excited about as well. So everybody wrote information down, and they were very appreciative and very just our brightest paraprofessionals that came, and I'm excited to see what happens. I have a couple of follow-up meetings. And
one person actually posted on social media that she was gonna do it.
Oh, really? I
And
didn't see
yeah.
that. Yeah. So, yeah, it was a fun group of people, and have some great options for the future. I think that's all I'm going to talk about. Do you have anything else in regards to my report? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Kyle's a question. He's a questioner.
You are full of questions tonight.
How many sped cars do we have?
I knew you were gonna ask me that. And Lisa's gone. Before COVID, I would say we had about 100.
Oh, wow.
Since then, we had to pare down quite a bit, and then we kind of made it work. So we have probably between 80 and 90 paraprofessionals.
Just for sped.
I think on our Form 150, we put 95, but we always overestimate a little bit.
Mhm.
So probably about 90, I would guess.
Yeah. I would
Spread
guess.
somewhat evenly amongst all schools.
Yeah.
I mean,
Providing services in all, in all of our schools.
Nice.
okay. Thanks.
We can't do business without them. They provide a lot of services, quite a bit of services to our students especially.
Okay, program evaluation.
Okay, I was tasked with evaluating the early childhood programming in Seaman, as we have been doing the last year or so. And the first thing I did was call Jennifer Hill, because she's it for early childhood programming. That's why she's here this evening. She's my backup if there's anything. But anyway, we met together and went through all of this together. We've got a great thing going on, and I'm excited to share this information with you. So first of all, talking about the program description. The programming at Seaman refers to the structured educational and developmental programs designed for young children, typically from prenatal to age 5. In Seaman, we support children's cognitive, social, emotional, language, physical development through play-based learning, structured activities, and guided instruction. We provide services for 3 different populations: students with special needs, students that are at risk, and community-based students. You can see the stakeholders. Different stakeholders from others are Chart Tiny K. Talk to you about that in a little bit. And as well as parents as teachers, this is something unique at the preschool that other programs do not have. You can see our programming goals from cognitive growth, social, emotional, physical, language, school readiness, inclusive learning, and family and community engagement. The first thing I would like to bring to your attention is the budget. So if you want to click on that budget, oh, we've already got it ready for us. Fortunately, one of the things that Jennifer has to do every year with Lisa is to provide an outline of the preschool budget for the KPP grant. So it's really nice that we have this. Lisa works together for these numbers, but I thought it's very interesting. On the very lines 13 and 14 are the lines that I was very interested in, and I thought maybe you guys would as well. So it's our total revenue versus our budgeted expenditures. This is a minus transportation. So we don't have transportation in this, and minus just lights and water and things like that. So right now, the revenue that we get at the preschool level is about, on the right there, $1.2 million, but our expenditures are $1.77 million. So about $600,000 is what our preschool programming costs us. Which I don't think is that bad. I was surprised at that. So below there, you can dig into it if you'd like, but if you want to know overall from our budget, that's it. I'll let you go back. Yeah. Measurables. This is the exciting part as well. So we have quite a bit of measurables at the preschool, and I thought I'd show them to you. The first one is my IGDs. Now I know Megan presented tonight, we probably won't use my IGDs anymore if we go to FastBridge. But if you want to know the numbers, over to the right, I'm looking at the overall literacy and overall numeracy. This is the percentage of students that performed in just the MET category in regards to literacy and numeracy. And it's the 4-year-old afternoon class. And so it's a different class for every year. So we can't compare them to each other, but we can compare each class and how they're doing. Of course, this is end of the year data, so 1920, we didn't have end of the year data. To SRSSI, so this is our student risk screening scale for early childhood. We have been doing the student risk screening scale for K-12 for a long time. Just last year, I believe, we thought, why don't we do this for early childhood? It's internalizing and externalizing behaviors. This is a survey that teachers do for our children. And you can see we just have end of the year last year's data. We typically do this 3 times a year. What percentage of students are performing, I guess, behaviorally in the green area, which our goal is about 80%. And then you can see our targeted interventions at 14 and 10%. Right. I is internalizing. Jeff was scared it wasn't going great. This is kind of a fun little head count that we have the data, we just haven't always put it together. Hopefully it's to the right, I guess, if you want to blow it up a little bit, but this is the population, the number of students each year, and I believe this is the September 20th count, right? It's September 20th count. How many students were on an IEP on the September 20th count? How many students were in the at-risk category, community category, and then total? We do have a note in 2020-21, we started accepting 3-year-old at risk and getting funding for 3-year-old at risk then. This is the population of milk each year. TARC students. So this is what I said that we talk about a little bit later. So we are required by law, this is special education only. That students with special needs receive services through TARC from when they're born to 2 years old, anywhere between 0 and 2. We are required to evaluate them when they're 2, before they turn 3, and see if they qualify for an IEP. So school districts are required to provide the special services from the day they turn 3. So we're accepting TARC students throughout the year. We actually kind of do it quarterly. The kids that are turning 3, 1 quarter start. And we evaluate those students. So, and we keep data of those students. I guess we have data from 1920. We started accepting data. The number, blue is the number evaluated. So you can see in 1920, we evaluated 20 students. The number of potential evaluations, because we get every single one of us, they send us the name of the student from TARC. And say they're turning 3, we provided their service, and then parents either have to decline evaluation, accept the evaluation, or sometimes they move and go to another district. So we could have evaluated 30, we evaluated 20. How many qualified for an IEP? And you can see the difference between 1920 and 23-24 of students that we evaluate and students that we qualify.
Deidre, do you have any issues from the transition from Part C to B?
Issues?
Yeah. Do you have any issues that you have to deal with? Really? Side.
Oh, I was trying to smooth transition.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Our school psychologist, Brianna Miller, is school psych. She would hate for me to say her name. She's really good, but really doesn't want to be in front of anybody. She is awesome. She works with the TARC transition people all the time. And, you know, it's really pretty good.
Oh, good.
Good
No, I
communication.
was hoping to hear good things. Brad, can I have your pen? Thank you. No, that's, sorry, his clicking was driving me crazy.
It's cracking his knuckle.
No, I apologize. Oh, yeah, it's Kyle.
That's a good question, but we have a smooth.
Okay, good. I had heard some, I mean, not within our district, but I had heard that there was issues from that
We
transition.
create a
So
smooth transition always.
that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, I have a question. In 21, 22, it says of the 26, one was a 504.
Oh,
What is that?
504 is an accommodation plan. Sorry. Oh, yeah. They didn't qualify for an IEP. They have to qualify with a disability and a need for specially designed instruction. That needs something different, specially designed instruction. 504s, they have a disability and they may have a need for accommodations, but not specially designed instruction. So they
Gotcha.
qualify for a 504.
Gotcha.
That was a note that Brianna put on there. Yeah.
No, and I'm glad she did because
Instead of like. the
Oh, okay.
vocational act.
gotcha.
Good question, actually.
I didn't see what this said, click on it so fast. Percent of kinder students, oh, sorry, this is kindergarten classes at each school each year. That the students in kindergarten, what percentage of them went to milk? Which I think is really cool data as well. So you can see, and this is 20, like if you could see the 24, 25 data. It's green. So like Logan, which is so interesting to me, this year's Logan class, 71% of those students went to Mel at preschool services, which is pretty cool. You can see, you know. the
Yeah,
population.
that's awesome. Well, and it's like Elmont and West Indianola are furthest away from Milk, and
are.
they have the least students.
Elmont and what did you say, North Bergen?
West
Oh,
Indianola.
West Indianola. Yeah. Question?
So what percentage of our kindergartners go to overall?
We didn't do it overall. I guess we could average that.
Average.
That's at each school,
Right.
percent. At each school, we'd have to look at the total number and average. I'll get it to you. We didn't do the whole thing, we just did it by school.
Curious, half roughly, is that?
Yeah, it looks like about half. When you look at it, we said about 50%.
It's about 50%.
What you would think, because they provide milk. 3-year-old class is about 150 and the 4-year-old class is about 150, so it's about half of a class of students. So you would expect that.
Actually, probably more than half
Little bit over half.
because 205 total last year or this year. And our classes are
They're small.
not even close to that,
You
double that, so.
Still do peer students.
Yeah, community.
Okay, that's what that, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that bottom data, I meant to bring my notebook back. So the percentage of milk students reading proficiently by 3rd grade. This is kind of exciting data. So in that report, what do we call it, Candace? The annual report, I always forget what it's called. Mr. Wilson just went over it, the annual report. Remember when we talked about 3rd grade proficient students? Overall, the bottom number, 72% of our 3rd graders are proficient. So we figured out how many percent of our milk students were proficient in reading. We have 77%, which I think is kind of a.
So
Think of the number of IEPs that
Right,
go through there, that's
It is-
impressive.
you would say it's most of
Very.
the IEPs, it's at-risk students.
Of the 72.
No,
No.
77% of milk.
the milk students. 'Cause
When you're
that's-
just looking at the
Gotcha.
students that attended Mel, they for 77% of them.
They're outperforming. They are all of our
job,
students
Jennifer.
that have been identified with a disability or at risk.
Jennifer
Yes,
and
that would be the
staff.
staff. Yeah, it's even more exciting when you think of the population because of what Mr. Wilson was saying. So I always say about one class. I look at class levels, like first grade class, there's about 40, 30 to 50, but usually about 40 IEPs in every grade level class throughout our district going up. And we really serve that number of students in each grade level. So we're catching, I can't say not all of them, but most of our students who need IEPs going to Mel. In 3s and 4-year-olds. And so for that group of students, plus the student at-risk students, plus then some community students, which isn't the most of the population, are performing at 77% reading proficiency. So that's exciting. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So proficient is a high two?
It's
High
it's-
two or on the Acadians being proficient, yes.
Remember the scatter plot
Not
that
the
David
3-4.
created?
Yeah.
I knew it was.
Okay. Action steps. So when we look at action steps, we just, we pulled out categories that are important. Professional development, we want to continue having high expectations for professional development. Our paras and our teachers as well, knowing that it's so difficult when we talk about teachers. They wear two hats, a regular education hat and a special education hat. So knowing all about disabilities and every student is different. Professional development is really, really, really important at that level, as it is at all levels, but targeting our teachers and our peer professionals. Budget will continue. Implementation, we're looking at our budget. Retention of staff is really important. How do we retain the staff that we have? One thing in our family care and support, in our recruitment is that we want to support our families and so of our teachers. And so we provide slots for our teacher students. Most of those are community slots, but sometimes there's IEPs and at-risk as well. But that's one thing that we can offer our staff when we hire is that they have a slot at Bell. In our plan. Program structure. This is something that we evaluate all the time. In fact, Jennifer and I are talking about it right now for next year. So we really have to look at the structure of the programming in regards to the population of our students. And just this year, the population of our students has changed quite a bit. In regards to our students with disabilities. We have more intensive disability students that will go into our specialty classrooms when they get older. We don't have specialty classrooms at the preschool with integrated classrooms. Do we need a specialty classroom is what we're talking about. That's inclusive, but provides the specific opportunity to target specific training for teachers and paras. That is what we feel is missing when we have that population of really high need students throughout the building. We have 9 teachers that have inclusive classrooms. We want an inclusive classroom, but we also need to target some high need students. So we reevaluate the program structure every year. What are the needs of our students and what do we need to do within our framework at Mel to provide the support that we need for those students. So anyway, we're talking about that right now and we might change the books for next year. Yeah.
Are you talking physical disabilities as well as?
Physical, cognitive, and behavioral.
I just remember when Phoebe was in the early childhood program decades ago. We had kids in wheelchairs and that sort of thing, and that's in.
We haven't had that for a very long time, but our population is changing
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
Kyle, any questions?
So
Brandon's got one.
Diana asked for me.
Right.
No, that's like an IIC room or low incidence room. referring to.
Maybe we're talking about an integrated room, which would maybe be low incidence autism, something like that. There's only 2 grade levels, and our other programs or other specialty programs are K-6. You realize, and so think about that population K-6 versus just a 3s and 4s program. So, but there's a high number of students right now that, that fit within that category.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Deidre.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Lots of work. Mr. Bradley.
I got a question.
Kyle, she sat down, you're too late.
Just a question, Deidre. So seeing the numbers increase, is that, are people moving, coming here because we're doing such a good job of milk, do you think? Could that be something, or do you have any, is that any?
No.
Okay.
I want to say that our numbers are increasing. This is what I say to people all the time. Our population of students without without things, we're just, usually I report on the December 1 count at this point, even though we don't have it quite finalized yet. It's so complex anymore. But our population of students with IEPs is staying the same. It's the population within that population of students that have IEPs, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah,
It's a trend they're seeing around the state, not just in our district.
So Deidre, I have a question. So do you have a preliminary number for your December 1 count? And has that changed quite a bit from the previous year?
No.
No.
I do have, Kathy and I talked about this morning, I don't wanna say it.
No, you're
It's not
fine.
changed,
Okay,
it's not changed very much at all.
okay.
I think it's gone up in the few, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Mr. Bradley.
No, wait.
Oh, my gosh.
so
Yes.
Diana asked, so is it more intellectual or physical disabilities you're seeing?
Yes.
I would say both.
Okay, okay.
And even emotional.
Yeah.
So there's three, I'd say there's three layers to that. There's physical disability, which typically comes with an intellectual disability. There's intellectual disability without the physical disability. Then there's autism students that maybe don't have an intellectual disability, but have severe behavioral needs due to their autism.
So you think, is that where you're seeing the growth?
Within those three areas that I just. said.
Okay, so it's not, okay.
Yeah. So I know that our December, sorry, I'm gonna go back to you. The last 2 years, our December 1 count for IDA students, I'm not, I think it's different now, 626 and 626.
Yeah.
Same number.
Yeah.
2 years in a row. And I believe it will be around there, but it's.
Okay. I was just curious.
I'm curious too, but it's a complicated report to get together anymore because we have so many students that come in and out now that it's really hard to track it. And so Kathy is. Everything like in my, but it's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, it's normally finalized by now.
It's due April 15th.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Nothing like waiting to the last day. You and Lisa have something in common.
Now is it
Now it's Lance's turn.
Lance, Mr. Bradley.
I'm done. Go ahead, you're up.
He'll have some for you.
I want to start off by the scoreboard, the gentleman who was on the outside in the blue t-shirt, Mr. Andrews. His tennis court, the entrance that goes into the tennis court, that is the gentleman that made the bright yellow tennis ball.
Oh, okay. Really?
For
Yes,
his Eagle Scout project. For his Eagle Scout project.
Yep. His freshman year. So
That's cool.
that gentleman is the one that made those. I just wanted to point that out. He was one that made them. So,
That is cool.
yes. Starting off with the softball complex. I got some pictures of when they started building the bricks, putting the bricks in. The second picture over there is when they were starting to put the roof on. So yeah, and then the frames. And then we got to right before the first softball game, they got the padding that's up. And then the day of. Yes, the day of. They got all the benches and everything put together for their game that afternoon. So everything didn't have the metal roof on, but they got to play. On the, in the dugouts, and the girls absolutely loved it. Our new backstop. He wanted even Viking softball instead of just Viking softball.
Yeah.
So. And they got 2 Viking heads on the middle. That was Rita who wanted all that, so. We actually have our walkthrough tomorrow at 2:00 with Mammoth. To finalize on everything.
We leave those pads up all year, or they come down after the season.
These actually come off, so we can actually.
it'll last
put
a
them
little
You
inside.
do take them off. Cause they didn't used to,
They were all screwed on,
cause we used them for senior pictures in the summer.
so those will come off at the end of the season.
Gotcha.
And we will put them in their
Storage.
storage that they have in their dugout.
So they should last a lot longer.
A lot longer and will not fade. So that's the whole point. We made sure that that was detached.
Somebody said that or asked me.
So
The dugouts look terrific. They look really, really nice.
they are pretty impressive. Next month I'll have it where they're totally painted with the metal roof and everything. So everything's. We got 2 different colors. We got the outside colors that will match the padding. And then on the inside, we painted some of the inside. To match with the benches and everything, so it's coordinated together. But yeah, tomorrow afternoon at 2:00, we have our final walkthrough. So pretty exciting about it. High school, again, freshman center, when they added on the freshman center, we put the generator up on top of the roof. The last 4 or 5 years now, we've been having problems with snow coming down over the top of it. It's not been able to turn on because it doesn't have the air. And for us to service it, for them just fully to come out was almost $2,000. With our other 3 generators, it's about $750. So this is gonna save the district some money. So we put it up there on the front side and put the fence around it, and it's pretty sharp. So it's gonna be a lot easier for all of us to access it instead of climbing up on the roof, and we haven't had any major accidents, but now I don't have to worry about it. Just walking to it like the other 3, so.
All right, thank you. Now we have Marty M. Lance.
Before I forget, Jeff and his crew do a phenomenal job with IT. I'm just telling you, you can go anywhere in the state and the stuff that they do with as few a number of folks as they have, nothing short of miraculous. I just wanted to make sure that somebody said that. So.
And Jeff, would you agree that sometimes the guys that are technical and good aren't always the people that have the greatest customer service, but not so for you guys? They are phenomenal. Yeah.
I do owe Jeff money too, by the way. We're
For a
gonna go over,
lost computer.
maybe. We're gonna go over just some highlights. I know you guys have this, and most of these things you have either already approved, but to kind of give you an idea of all the different stuff that's gonna be going on this summer especially, but really every summer. Update the sight and sound at both the middle school and high school. We'll do playground shades at all the elementary schools, restriping parking lots. Roof replacement, obviously, at the high school and at West Indianola. HVAC replacement at the high school and controls at the high school as well. Lightning protection at the middle school, improved playground area where the field house was at Logan. Overhead door replacement The four doors that are there in transportation need to be replaced. Fobs across the district. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk a little bit about are things that are specific to the middle school and have been ongoing issues since the building was completed. And this is an attempt with us working with contractors and HTK. And these are the next steps so that you guys are in the loop on this and aware. I would tell you that Lance and I meet probably twice a month at least with different contractors trying to resolve some of the issues we have there. HTK intends to receive or get bids for repairs to the storm drain elbow and replace the flooring in the hallway. That's inside the middle school.
That long hallway that
Correct.
gets down.
Yep. One of a couple of them, actually.
So you'll have to be more specific.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, you are correct. The district and Samco and Latimer Summers plan to check for leaks in the water supply lines for a couple of methods. Basically, they're going to test the water pressure with the water off. I'm going to oversimplify it so that we can try and pin down where other potential leaks are going on. Concrete work done at the main entry and the shop ramp. We'll get a bid we've already got from Restoration Waterproofing to replace vertical and horizontal control joint sealant at the walls and the sidewalk to base of the walls conditions. And then Bob D. Campbell will return this summer to observe and record any changes. And I'm not even going to try and say it, clerestory windows. Those one big windows up above.
Gotcha.
This, I will tell you, this is the only building that I have ever been involved with where we actually have tumblers on the wall to determine how much movement there is. There are plenty of things that have obviously not gone exactly the way we would have liked to when that was built. And we're seeking to try and figure out ways to repair that and get the building set. I think it's a safe bet to say that there is some kind of water that is underneath the building and creating problems. But whether or not we can locate exactly where that is, which eventually we will, and mitigate it, or whether or not there are other issues beyond that. This is at that stage where we're trying to knock out one thing at a time to determine if there are bigger problems than the ones we know. Just what you wanted to hear, right?
So back to March on the water pressure. We're going to try to do a Thursday, Friday at the beginning. Where we eliminate all students and staff. We put the water pressure to the lines and figure out, kind of locate areas so that we locate it. That's our goal. It's about 4 days.
So are you just eliminating water, fresh water, potable water, or do you know there's leak?
We know there's at least a leak or two. And that's part of where we will be tearing up the floor in that one hallway to get down and go ahead and be able to access the pipe so that it can be replaced. Don't have a price for that yet because that's part of the bid process. I know it'll be over 20,000.
We have fixed a pinhole leak that had been there from maybe the inception of the building. But the heating continues, so the assumption is that water is continuing from other places. Supply. Yeah.
More than the drain.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
The next ones are ones that are pretty typical and they touch on all the buildings. All flooring will do flooring in West Indianola, Elmont, North Fairview. The overall cost on that estimated to be $37,290. Concrete, we're still receiving bids. Concrete track, the walking area where West Indianola has for the kids. Elmont parking lot, crack filling, crevices, milk, fixing the alley concrete, add a wheelchair accessible swing on the playground. Yeah, we waited till Mrs. Hill was gone so we could tell. At the middle school, obviously, concrete walkway to the discus and shot put areas. And then the pit filled in at Pleasant Hill. AB painting cost estimated to be about $66,500. North Fairview, the high school, multiple places, West Indianola, Milk, the middle school, Pleasant Hill, Northern Hills. Northern Hill, there's about 4 or 5 rooms. The offices there, teachers lounge, conference room, ISS rooms. And then cabinets, we're still in the process of getting bids. We got those just here and we were able to look at them today. North Fairview has a couple of different spots, but they would like some cabinets replaced. That's $26,555. I don't know that we'll be able to do that this summer. And then the 2 that I know we will do for sure, Northern Hills wants, and they storage cabinets, the music room, that's 4108. And then the Seaman Viking TV studio room needs to be reworked, and that's $13,066. The fax, the bid for the fax room at the high school is $42,524. And again, that's probably a fiscal year 26 thing. All in all, when it's all said and done, during the summer, we'll have about $3.5 million worth of projects that are going on. Overall, we spent about 4.9 million in the fiscal year. Some of those we're able to do during the course of the year. And when we talk about capital outlay, this is one of those years when we talk about adding the cost of technology and transportation and maintenance. All in all, it's right around $7.1 million. So some of that's because we didn't get some stuff done during COVID, during the pandemic. This has allowed us an opportunity to catch that up, and we're probably in a better shape at the end of this summer than we have been in years.
As far as upkeep and maintenance.
We're kind of caught up at that point. And then it's just continue to just maintain. And what you'll see is for fiscal year 26, that number won't be $7.1 million. It'll be significantly less. Because there won't be some of the projects that we need to do. And we've moved some projects like the high school roof as a larger project, which saves us money over the 2 years versus splitting it up and spending more over the 2 years. Good question. Anything else? It's kind of an auctioneer right there. So
yeah, they manage that capital outlay very well, and I don't know of another district that has managed, and this has nothing to do with me, but managed the HVAC and rooftops like this district has. Staying up to date on those is very difficult, and it uses most of our cap outlay.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to action items. We have a non-renewal resolution that I have to read.
I just wanna, if it's okay, just have Marty guide you through that
Well,
so that we hit all the
yeah.
steps.
A non-renewal resolution that we will read, I will read, and Marty's gonna, or are you reading it?
No.
no,
I just
you-
want-
you-
I have to
you
read
get
it.
to read it and then you have to read the whole thing.
Yeah,
Any questions? Keeping in mind that there are certain things that you can't ask in an open session. And this is, anytime there is a resolution for non-renewal, it has to be in an open session. And it has to be read just as this is. This is attorney approved,
and then we all sign.
correct?
But do we vote on it after I read it?
Yes,
Okay, so we'll need a motion.
yes.
Okay. Resolution of intent to non-renew a teacher's contract, resolution 04142025. Whereas Lisa Spurlock is currently employed in United School District number 345, Shawnee County, Kansas. And whereas the Board of Education of said Unified School District number 345, Shawnee County, Kansas, finds that the contract of Lisa Spurlock should be non-renewed, and that Lisa, oh, I thought I was gonna sneeze, Spurlock should be given written notice on or before May 16th, 2025 of the intent of the Board of Education to non-renew her contract for the 25-26 school year. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of Unified School District number 345, Shawnee County, Kansas, as follows. It is hereby declared to be the intent of the Board of Education of Unified School District number 345, Shawnee County, Kansas, that the employment contract of Lisa Spurlock as a teacher be non-renewed for the 25-26 school year. And the clerk of the Board of Education is directed to give written notice in person or by restricted United States mail to Lisa Spurlock on or before May 16th, 2025. Of the board's intent to non-renew this contract for the 2025-2026 school year. Adopted by the Board of Education of Unified School District number 345, Shawnee County, Kansas, the 14th day of April, 2025. I need a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none. Yes, Kyle.
This need to be a roll call vote.
Probably should be.
Okay. Did you get that, Candace?
If you want to just call each name and let them individually vote.
Approve the resolution. Christie, approve. Michelle,
Yes.
Diana, approve.
Approve.
Wow.
Approve.
Okay.
Candace and I will deliver the letter, and then there will be another one next month that is the final action.
So will we sign
You will sign tonight.
tonight?
The resolution.
Okay.
And again,
Thank you.
Marty.
Capacity recommendations, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. I'm probably overly cautious when anything is prescribed specifically in statute, like the last one, but also there are some things with capacity recommendation. These are to be posted by May 1st. And this is similar to how we did it last year. Make sure that you are aware of these initial attendance recommendations. They could change slightly based on any changes that we may have before now and May 1st. And so, but we want for you to approve this non-resident attendance capacity, understanding that some of these numbers could change slightly. One of the things you will notice this year compared to last year, we have lower numbers available in 7th grade. Part of that is we have reduced our numbers of staff going last year into this year and this year into next year. And that has reduced really our capacity. For budgetary reasons, we're gonna have to look at what we need to do for budgetary things. What we haven't done up to this point is increase the space capacity limits per classroom. But if we did that accordingly, that might increase that number again. But right now, these are based on our current staffing, current number of classes, and the same capacity recommendations that we made previously. and really just a motion to accept. Is really all you're doing.
I'll
It's
make a
not
motion to
approving.
accept the
Yeah, go ahead.
non.
I'm sorry.
Good.
Okay, so some of our kindergartens have 0 open spots. Is that because we have assessed how many of our
Yes.
district children we think are coming
Yeah,
in?
we've done
That's why.
kindergarten orientation already and
Thank you. That was all.
yeah, the Logan. This is one of the changes that may happen. Logan's is, we do have quite a bit of space, but those are the ones that tend to sometimes come in late. But as of right now, that number is 24, but if we had in-district kids come into that, that number would decrease even after May 1. That's what we'll publish on May 1. But if we get in district, it can eat those up. That's why you can't put a one-time thing out there like the law says, because you could have in-district kids come at any
I just
time.
was questioning.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, Chris.
You're good.
Make a motion to accept the non-resident attendance capacity as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the attendance capacity as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Demographic and budget study. Mr. Wilson.
Yeah, you guys are well aware that over the past several years, our enrollment has declined. So I went out and actually did 2 things. One, Power School has a new module that looks at enrollment. You can do it in real time. That's nice. The reality of it is we probably only need one of these studies done about every 5 years. And the Power School is 11,000 something every single year. The one we're bringing to you is just over that, but if you do it once every 5 years, or if you choose not to do it again, that would change that. So I'd like to highlight real quickly page 15 to give you the kind of data that this will show you. This is Derby School District. And I think the highlight in this is that as time goes on, that top number is the accuracy with which this, RSP has predicted these. Again, not perfect every time, but you can see that well up into the 90s, and that has been my experience with them as well. Going on to page 19. They will predict how many elementary, middle, and high school students in the future, so you can see kind of where you're at. For an additional fee, you can do it by building. I am not recommending that we do the by building, but they will give you projections based on that. I did want to, on page 27, real quickly show you that you could do it by building, and you get much smaller data that will show you not only the capacity, but how many kids reside in that area and how many kids actually attend in that area right now, as well as projections. So there's a lot of information, but probably most importantly to you guys on page 37. For a simple enrollment analysis that will give us an idea of, are we in a continuing trend of declining enrollment, or will this potentially plateau off? Would be $13,500. Additional building capacity could be added to that, but I'm not recommending that. This is technically not something that you need to act on if you want to just do the enrollment analysis, as it's under the threshold. But if you wanted to do both of those, you would have to approve that.
So have they done work for us before?
So yes, but I don't know, and maybe some of the others here know more. They started a study before COVID, and it was, I think, getting pretty close to being presented, and then COVID hit, and it never got presented to the board. And the reality of it is that data became, moot. As a change, yeah, it's obsolete almost instantly, which is crazy. But if I understand correctly, RSP never charged the district for that study. Oh, did
Marty, do
you?
you have?
Yeah, March of 2020.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I remember I had just come on the board when that,
is it
Okay.
in board docs? Cause I cannot find it.
I don't know, do you remember
I don't
Not in
remember
board
it.
docs, I've never.
Okay.
that?
So I
Did we
don't,
get the report though, Marty?
The last time.
you weren't,
We got our preliminary report.
Okay.
That I saw.
I don't think the board ever saw it.
And I think part of that was that whole pandemic thing that popped up in March of 2020.
Okay.
And then we realized, and so did the firm, that it was probably not.
Cause we never paid, did we?
well,
No.
yeah, we may have paid for some, I don't know.
I don't-
Marty would know way better than I
I
would,
don't
but
think we
they
did.
do the work ahead of time. So I would be surprised. I mean, he would have done basically every bit of the work. So I don't know if he got paid or not, but
I
he would
just
have
thought-
done all the work to get paid for it.
I just thought it was funny that we were listed as a client on the very beginning list, but we don't have anything,
Yeah.
so.
So when
So
was the
that's
last
why.
time we would have done something like this for the district before March of 2020?
Before, when would have been the time before that, do you know?
If I understand correctly, and I wasn't here, prior to
Oh,
the
the
last
bond.
issue,
Yep, that would make sense, because usually when you do a bond, that's when it happens. Or you close a school or stuff like that. You tend to want to have those.
So, Mr. Wilson,
Yeah.
the top 13.5
Yep,
is just for the,
just for the basic
Enrollment.
enrollment study to tell us
And then
essentially.
it's an additional 14, okay.
No, not, that is on top, so 27,650.
And another 12, so 39.
If we wanted to add in building tours.
Yes. I
So,
don't
but
know
what
what
you're
building tours are, to be honest.
But you're suggesting do the.
Just the top.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be my recommendation. Because we are not looking, if we were looking to change boundaries, to build a brand new school, to shut a school, you need to know all that. You need to do the whole thing. If you're just wanting to know for future funding and those types of things, probably the top study will give you the data you need.
I personally think we need to know where we're going, and what the numbers look like.
Do we have a motion?
You can, I don't have any issue if you approve this for the initial enrollment analysis. Technically, you don't have to because it's under 20,000.
Oh, okay.
But if you want to, it just solidifies it, and you've given me the directive to move forward on this. I can't change my mind then.
I will make a motion that we approve the demographic budget study as presented for the enrollment analysis.
Perfect.
Okay.
Let's take it.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the budget study for the enrollment analysis. Any further discussion?
How long? What's the process? Do you know, Brad?
I
How
do
long
not
it
know
takes?
how long it'll take him to do that. If he's done one in the past, it'll go a lot quicker because he has preliminary data and probably more importantly, already the connections made in the county offices, things like that.
Okay. sure.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Appeal hearing officer.
So this was a discussion item last meeting. Your option to make it a action item or not, but I was asked for some additional data and I sent out to all superintendents asking for them to respond to the method. And an appeal was in capitals, just like it is on your piece of paper, that asking them to give us information in a drop-down menu of what kind of method they used for expulsion appeal hearings. The highest one was they use a hearing officer that is an employee or the superintendent who conducts the hearing, and then obviously the board votes on whether to uphold that recommendation or not. Then there can do an outside hearing officer, which can be a professional or an attorney. That could be KASB or our attorney, and that does the hearing. And again, the board has to decide, as we have done in the past, and I thought we'd get more of them. The board conducts the hearing and then votes to decide to uphold it or not. And then sometimes they have a committee of the board, so maybe 2 or 3 board members who hear the hearing, and then the whole board decides, and then one of them have a committee of the board, 2 or 3, and that committee actually just decides. They have the authority of the board given to them to decide. And so you can see the data that was collected.
I can't remember, Brad, what was the cost of having an outside attorney roughly? Or outside hearing officer?
I don't know that I know that information. I did not search for that. If that's what you want to do, it's not going to be so prohibitive that we can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not, you're not talking,
I was just wondering if maybe that 51% would be lower if depending on the cost of having that outside.
maybe,
I would think that that would hinder.
maybe. I think as much. I think the reason people go with an outside is to save the time for their staff, and so I actually do think that some of the bigger districts sometimes do that.
What are the negatives to just appointing the superintendent?
Oh,
Go ahead. It's open
no, I was
discussion.
just gonna say, we have a guy right over here, that's his job. So.
No, he does the initial hearing, so.
He can't
Talking
be
about
the hearing
He
officer.
can't be the appeal. It has to be somebody
I'm
that
sorry.
has authority
Okay.
over the hearing
Okay,
officer.
okay.
So your only options are me as an employee, because Marty is essentially,
Mhm. You're
next
the
in
next
line.
step. Uh-huh.
yep. And then, or you could do an outside attorney that was neutral, or an outside person that was neutral. Doesn't have to be an attorney by any stretch. It can be anybody that does this essentially professionally.
So
So
Or
again,
theoretically, Marty hears it, or is the
Yeah.
principal, what,
Yep.
they hear it. It goes to the next step. I'm just saying you.
Potentially, it's
And
been
then
straight to the
there's
board.
another step that could, or that's it.
Well, I would hear it. So remember how you have heard these before where you got the evidence
Mhm.
gathered? The difference of having me do it is I sit in there, schedule it, I listen to it, I run the hearing, similar to what I facilitate with you guys. But I'm hearing all the data and information. I summarize it. I give it to you guys.
and then we vote.
Make a recommendation if you'd like me to, but essentially you read my summary and you make the vote without in
Okay.
executive session without having to actually go to the hearings yourself. It's the scheduling of the hearings within 10 days is why some people do this. The challenge is you're not, if you ask the negative, I would say the negative of having somebody else do it is you don't hear with your own ears the presentations from the either side.
So. If the reason that we are, just for general information, the reason that this has even came up is because the last appeal hearing, we had a difficult time finding time for all of us. My concern is that in most of these, the evidence is pretty straightforward, right? We feel pretty strongly one way or the other, but there have been, without violating any, concerns for student confidentiality. there have been those recently where we've had some pretty significant discussions and in fact have modified or asked additional questions, modified the recommendation. I think my only concern about turning this over to you is that we as a board lose that opportunity
Yep.
to hear from the family or the student in person to ask those questions, because I'm assuming, we can ask you the questions, but then we're just continuing
I
to
have-
delay the problem.
Well, if I haven't asked them in the hearing,
Right, it doesn't do any good.
Right. where
then I
it's
can't go
done.
back. Yeah, it's done. Whatever is presented in that hearing is the only thing that you may use to make the decision.
So
So,
from my
okay.
perspective, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I think from my perspective is that while it'd be a heck of a lot easier for us and maybe even the families if Brad was doing it, this is kind of my job to listen and to hear and to help make those determinations. And so I kind of am struggling a little bit with the inability to
Ask questions.
ask questions and make sure that, not that we don't trust our staff, because of course we trust
Sure.
our
No,
staff and they're
this is not
wonderful.
anything personal. This is how you want to do it.
But
Process.
I just feel like that's part of what we are supposed to do is hear these things and make our judgments. So
We've been split on a lot of these decisions.
we've had a lot of questions.
And, if you're on the other side and you're a parent or the student, I think you would feel better if you got a chance to talk to the board, who is the ultimate jury, right? And present and ask questions and stuff to us, to the board that's gonna make the final decision. I just think we owe that to those people. That's my.
I agree.
with everything Diana said and Kyle. I just think that's just part of the job as a board member.
We are going to.
I know it's a pain and it's, and that window makes it really.
Yes.
Challenging.
And that was the challenge with the last one is we couldn't find a time within the 10 days, but fortunately the family had asked for an extension. But if the family doesn't ask for an extension, we cannot ask for an extension. So if it doesn't happen within that 10 days, no matter what the student did, they go back into our schools. And that's what, when these come up, and I'm not trying to slay, I'm just trying to give the gravity of how important it is to get at least 4 board members to these hearings. Because this could be a safety issue. It could be your public being very upset with you that you put a kid back in there because we were unable to get enough board members together for a hearing.
But that has
Just-
never happened.
So,
Like this was the
Has it?
first time, I mean, in the year that I've been on the little bit over a year that I've been on the board, this is the first time where we struggled to find 4 of us. To my knowledge.
And I'm
So-
saying in the district, that has never happened, where we didn't get the 4 and they were returned back.
Right, I mean, I just think,
how many have we had? 3 or 4?
Usually not even one a year.
Yeah. And we've had.
Lately.
But
You
it's becoming more,
That's changed.
I think people are
So-
less.
A question, is this a statute or is this our policy that says 10 days?
Yeah,
Can
the
we-
statute, I believe it's a statute as well as policy.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that policy is written to match statute, right?
Well, that's what,
So if we don't want to change it,
You don't need to do anything.
then we don't. Okay. Hmm?
I'm with Braden.
On the
Moving along.
curriculum,
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
on
Appreciate
the
that.
curriculum,
Thank you, Brad.
for researching it, and
Of
doing it.
course.
Yes.
so we don't
Kyle.
have to, we
No.
just pass it, we don't have
That's what
to,
we're gonna keep it the way we've been doing it.
so we don't have to,
Yep.
okay, no action?
Nope.
All right, last month I brought you the proposal for 4 different curricular adoptions. One is for elementary social studies adoption. One is for high school US history. One is for high school AP history courses, and then a couple textbook adoptions for our CTE agricultural program. So I'm here asking approval to purchase these for next year.
Can we do them all at the same time?
Yes.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the curriculum adoption recommendations from Megan as presented for all 4 elementary, US history, AP history, and CTE agriculture.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve all 4 of the curriculum bids, not bids, of the curriculum.
Options.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye, raise your hand and say aye. All in opposed, same sign,
Say right.
motion carried.
Thank you.
I have a headache, guys, so if I'm off, I'm sorry. Marty, do we get to talk to you for a while?
No, not very long.
Good. Hustle, let's get this stuff painted.
The first one is for Heartland Door and Window. They were the only ones to give us a bid for the transportation overhead doors. What I added or had in there when I visited with you earlier, we are recommending to go with the second one, which is $28,237. A little better door, and it also has windows, which may be a safety issue. We want those folks to be able to see outside and see what's coming. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in today. Any questions on that?
Nope. I'll make a motion to approve the bid for overhead doors at the transportation building for $28,237.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the bid for the 28,700.
No,
237.
28,000.
Sorry, it came off. 28,237. Oh, it's right in front of me. Sorry. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Paper products. We are recommending to go with Clayton Paper and Incorporated with a paper bid of $27,338.33.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to accept the bid from Clayton Paper for $27,338.33.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the bill from Clayton Paper, $27,338.33. Any further discussion? Or any discussion? Yes.
I just had a quick question, Marty. At the bottom of the bid sheet, it was broken out by different suppliers for different areas.
Yep.
But we're going with just the one, like, just to
Yeah.
make sure. Okay.
For the $200 difference, we thought
Okay.
it would probably save
I
us.
just
with
had
billing.
read that and thought,
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah,
We thought, we were hoping it would be a bigger variance than that.
okay. I just saw that.
Yep.
Okay, wanted to make sure.
I know I noticed one thing on the Heartland door, the quote was back like in December. Is that still good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry, I meant to, I.
Okay. Discussion on paper. All in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Flooring.
Flooring, hall floor is doing the projects that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier. They will be able to get those accomplished this summer. The combined bid would be $37,290.
Madam President, I make a motion to accept the bids from Hall Floor for $37,290.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from Hall Floor for $37,290. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand and say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Painting.
Painting, we would recommend that the projects that we mentioned previously be done by AB Painting and More for the combined cost of $66,500.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to accept the bid from AB Painting at the cost of $66,500.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the bid from AB Painting AB painting at a cost of $66,500. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye and raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, same side. Motion carried. Sorry.
It's Jeff.
Oh, we're gonna have discussions here.
Bring it on.
Okay, you're looking at a state contract bid to continue with our smart device upgrades in the district. Last year, you guys approved the elementaries and the preschool. This year, we are asking for middle school with the same display that we put in the preschool from last year. However, I got the price down about $300 per display. I don't think that's gonna last very much longer with all of the important issues happening. But this price is good for a month or so. Any questions?
Does it include a display for each one of them? No, probably not.
I got one extra. Sure.
And they install it all
They're
and
going to come in, remove all the old ones off the walls. We will take it from there. They'll put all the new ones up, get rid of all the cardboard, install it, test it, make sure it's all good. And then they've got a warranty on all their work.
Great.
President, I'll make a motion to accept the bid for the smart displays as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the smart display purchase for the middle schools as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye and raise your right hand. Aye. Opposed, same side. Motion carried.
Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Jeff.
5 minutes and then I want to prove Marty personnel.
That's incredible.
Yeah, in a minute, all right. I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations pursuant to employer-employee negotiations under coma, and the open meeting will resume in the board meeting in the boardroom at no later than 9:05. We're going to invite Marty and Brad in.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session. Any discussion?
Kyle.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Hey, it's time to go home. I'm done.
Well, I thought you were gonna ask a question.
I did too. I'm like,
No, I'm ready to say aye.
at 9:10.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, I call the regular school board meeting back into session. And I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the exception relating to personnel matters of non-elected personnel, and the open meeting will resume in the boardroom at 6, no later than 9:22. I need a second and a vote.
Sorry, we're here, yes, we agree. Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Motion carried. guys hear us when we're in there?
Yeah.
All right, I'm calling the meeting back to order, regular school board meeting back to order, and we are adjourned.